Good.
Doubling up. Roger roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight downside, speed off. Bring in, speed off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our live coverage from Starbase, Boca Chica, Texas. You're looking at SpaceX's Booster 4 at the Orbital launch site down in Boca Chica, and we're getting ready to see some lift operations. They're going to go ahead, install it on the Orbital launch mount, and get ready for its pre-flight testing campaign, and we're bringing you live coverage on NASASpaceflight. My name is Thomas Burkhart. I'm a news director here for NASASpaceflight. I'm joined by two of my best friends here. We got Jack Beyer on commentary. Jack, how you doing?
What's up, everybody? Are you ready to watch this thing get lifted onto the orbital launch mount? I'm doing good, Thomas. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. We also got Derek DK. Derek, how you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing just well. We also got Michael Baylor back in the studio, pushing the buttons and pulling the levers. And this is the NASASpaceflight team bringing you live coverage. This camera view brought to you by Nick out there in the field. So Nick is providing the camera views today. And we'll be taking your questions as always. We'll be just talking about what we're seeing right now. I believe the crews are kind of making their final pre-lift preparations. You can see the crane got hooked up. And there were some people working around the base of the rocket. We'll keep you updated as they get closer and closer to the actual lift. Should be very, very soon. And they'll be lifting it onto the orbital launch mount. But if you have questions about what we're seeing or what we're talking about, please feel free to throw those in the chat. Tag us with @NASASpaceflight. We'll be going through those. Also, just a big thank you to everyone who sends support our way via super chats or memberships or simply tuning in and saying, hey, we really appreciate that.
I like how you faked out Michael. He put his info up on screen, thinking you would mention him next, but you went to Nick next. But yeah,
said
Michael's
my name first. He definitely said my name first.
I said his name first. I didn't know if he wanted to say anything, so I just said Michael's pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and then I went to the camera guy.
Okay, and maybe I just need to have some more coffee. It's early for me here.
Very early for you, West Coaster.
The early morning NSF streams are always the exciting ones, right?
Yeah, we're the ones that go like 12 hours. Those are always good.
Right?
That's true.
Like, guys,
don't say that in front of a live stream, Jack. We don't want a 12-hour live stream right now.
It's like, guys, we got to end the stream. If we go beyond 12 hours, it'll start cutting stuff off. That does happen to us multiple times.
Yeah.
Cool.
Got a few questions already rolling in if you guys want to get into it right away. A quick easy one from Station 240. Are there engines in Booster 4? I've been sick/busy this week.
Oh,
I believe it's fully mounted, right?
Yeah, a full
we can see
complement, right?
All 29 on it when they rolled it out yesterday. Very visible. Kind of hard to hide that many Raptors just sticking out below the bottom of the thing.
That's a lot of Raptors.
I believe a bunch of those engines have been swapped between the original fit checks on the orbital launch site and the engines that are on there now. So this should be the flight set of engines.
That is what I think is correct. Those initial set of engines, that was for fit checks. And you want engines on there so that you can make sure you get a feel of what is it like to lower this booster down into that mount. Think of it as a giant steel donut, right? And they kind of have to thread the needle or thread the donut, I suppose, with that booster. And you want it to have the engines on there so that it's a representative task. So those initial engines, like you said, Thomas, we thought, based on sort of how some of those looked so fresh, that they hadn't been fired yet. And we did see them uninstall all those Raptors, and now a whole bunch of Raptors reinstalled. And presumably, like you said, this is the flight set of engines. All of these engines are actually fully installed and ready to go, and not just sort of there as facsimiles for a fit check, if that makes sense.
Thread the donut, Jack Beyer 2021.
Again,
now I want a donut.
I hesitate to repeat myself, although I know I do that a lot. But early for me. Maybe I just got.
I mean, hey, I totally got what you were going for there. It makes sense.
Yeah, thanks.
From Richard Bergen saying, Miss Mary Boca Chica gal, hope she's okay. She is on a very, very well-deserved vacation.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Doing just fine. If not, maybe better.
Yeah.
From chat, we're just now. Goodness. Rob Hobson says, "Hey, the YouTube app now allows more than $99.99 because he put in a $199.99 super chat." Rob, good morning to you as well. My goodness.
Rob, thank you very much. That's very generous. We really do appreciate that so
Helping
much.
keep the lights on.
Derek, I know you've been around for a little bit, but you may not know that Robert Hobson is affectionately known on this stream as Bob Hob. Thanks, Bob. Thank you.
I did not know that. I love it.
It's not the first time they've done a high dollar donation to the stream, and yeah. So thank you so much, Bob Hob.
Yeah.
You are absolutely. It's like Das says. You're crazy, but you are kind of crazy. I think that's the best way to put it. Seriously, thanks for helping us keep the lights on here at NASA Spaceflight.
From Colin Cleveland with a $2 super chat. Where is the header tank mounted in the new nose? Is anybody able to speak to that at all?
That's a really good question.
Do we know that it's been moved? I thought it was in the same spot.
I think maybe there's just no weld for it yet, and that's what's prompting the question. I would say that, and I would like to note that I am a couple days behind on watching the dailies, so I could have missed a shot of a nose cone. The new and improved nose cone, as Elon calls it. I could have missed an image here or there that showed a weld or something, but
for what it's worth, I did not notice.
Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly pull up the latest daily really quick.
Yeah,
and see if there's something I missed. I don't think we had indication that it had even moved, but if there's not a weld yet, that might mean they haven't put a nose cone in or put a header tank in a new nose cone yet. But that doesn't mean that it won't be in the same spot.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I do sort of feel like I've heard rumblings about the header tank moving. So yeah, maybe it will move, but as of right now, we're not seeing any indications of that one way or the other. I think is the right way to go there. I mean, that new nose cone, man, it looks so good compared to the current one. It reminds me of like how serial number 1 looked so janky and buckled and just not great compared to how all of the look at Booster 4. As tall and as many ring sections as that is, it looks just like a smooth, uniform surface. And I know we've seen some denting on Booster 4 here and there, but point being, it looks miles better than
I feel like
the early Starship Pro. Even SN5 and SN6, this Booster 4 looks great compared to those. So just imagine that new nose cone is sort of a similar evolution. It's just going to make all of the future Starships look that much better as prototypes and vehicles. What were you going to say, Thomas?
I feel like whenever we have the newest prototypes, we're talking about Starship 20 and Booster 4, I feel like we look at both of those and say, oh, they look so much better than all the ones before them. And then the next generation shows up, and then we look back at Booster 4 and Starship 20 and think they look like crap.
Oh, yeah.
Because it always, the newest one we always feel like looks really, really good until we see the next version, which is even better, and then we're like, wow, that didn't really look that good. So I feel like the standard changes every time they come up with new manufacturing process.
No, just a continually moving goalpost.
Yeah, exactly.
It absolutely does. I've said this before. It reminds me a lot of Apple products or even car models year to year, where sometimes you see a new, a new Android phone or a new iPhone, or you see a new model of a car, and you're like, ew, for a second, because it's different. Like, ew, what's that notch?
Right.
And then you look back, you get used to it for 30 seconds, and then you look back at the older models the previous year, and suddenly, instantly, it looks old and out of date. And SpaceX has done that multiple times over, to where they'll roll out S20 with the full heat shield, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, all of those bare chrome starships that we've been seeing and are used to sort of look kind of janky now in retrospect, but in a good way. Really quickly, we have Beej in chat asking what a header tank is. So a header tank is a smaller fuel tank that resides either within the larger fuel tank or elsewhere, and the smaller fuel tank holds the fuel for landing, because the tanks on the booster and on Starship are so large, you don't want to just have fuel being drawn from those into the landing engines, because it could be sloshing around. You could have a void in there or something. You want a smaller volume that you can pressurize and know that when the ship is horizontal or the booster is undergoing perhaps less than positive gravity, your fuel is not going to be sloshing around in a giant massive tank. So yeah, those header tanks hold landing fuel. They prevent it from sloshing around, so the engines get a nice, steady, constant stream of fuel. Was that accurate to say, Thomas? Is
Yeah,
that a fair description?
you absolutely nailed it.
Cool.
Also, while we're on this camera view, really quick, we'll point out on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see they've disconnected the crane from one of the cryo shells, so work continuing on the ground support equipment, the GSC, around the orbital launch site as well. But that's some more progress on the cryo shell / GSC tank side of things.
Real quick, let's go through some of the super chats we got rolling in. Make sure that we can try to stay ahead of them. It's not going to happen, but we'll do our best. From Brian Young, just a moment ago, with $100 super chat. My goodness. Love you all so much. Love the stream, and I love NASA Spaceflight Starship 15 Club shirt I got a while back. Hope you are all grinning as hard as I am. Looking at Booster 4 back on the pad. And there, Booster 4 is back on that pad.
Brian, thank you so much for that. That's really generous. Again, really appreciate it.
I got one for Jack here. Rough Riders show. So 29 engine static fire on the OLP. Also, Jack will now owe me an iPhone 13 bucks.
Oh my God! Again with the boxes. I should have never agreed to send Rough Riders those boxes. Yeah, I mean, it's
Probably
hard to
eventually.
say what they're going to do there. Presumably, they will do a full up 29 engine static fire. Maybe they'll work their way up to that. I forget if Elon has tweeted to this effect or not. But yeah, that would be quite a sight to see. Let's just go with that. Also, yes, I am getting an iPhone 13. Don't at me.
From Chris K, we got a $5 super chat. After the first static fire or launch, do you guys reckon that SpaceX will be redoing the concrete under the OLM, the Orbital Launch Mount?
I think they won't be, but that they might end up having to.
That was gonna be my answer.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they want to not. I
Yes.
also think that they probably will. Just gonna burn through a couple thanks here. Desmo Bluefire, good morning team. Ready for crane assisted takeoff? We've got a $20 super chat from Desmo. Thank you very much for your generosity. Super chats from Thomas Anfang, Kendall Winters, and JR Rocket Engineer. Thank you all for the support. Appreciate it.
Really quick,
Wow,
you
look
can
at
see
that.
this. Yeah,
This is a cool
load-
angle.
Oh goodness, I'm over here with my nose in chat.
That was the load spreader from that cryo show, which they didn't, looks like they didn't get it installed or anything. It was out at the launch site, but then they disconnected it, like we just pointed out in that other view. So not really sure what's going on there, but we know they've been continuing to work on that side of the orbital launch site. So we'll keep an eye on when they're ready to hook back up and get that installed, or maybe if there's an issue, they'll have to roll it back and work on it at the production site some more or something. So we'll keep an eye on that. But we did kind of get photobombed by the load spreader there.
A little bit. It's a fun look, a close-up look at what the load spreader actually figured.
Yeah, it's like 3 spreader bars connected by a triangular type piece of metal.
More spreader bars.
Yeah, I know that the dangling parts with the straps there, those are spreader bars. I wonder what the 3-arm thing is called, or if that's also just called a spreader bar. That'll be a good question for Das's crane friend.
Yeah, I don't actually know.
And before I forget, sorry, I know you're trying to run through some of these.
No, you're good.
To Chris's K question about the concrete under the orbital launch pad after a 29 engine static fire. Newer viewers may not remember, but back when they were static firing, what was it? Was it SN 8 or 9, somewhere in there? They actually shattered the Martite, which is a flame resistant, rocket engine exhaust resistant coating for concrete and other materials that they had underneath the suborbital launch mount. So there was chunks of Martite that flew all over. In fact, one of the chunks of Martite severed the it was like severed a hydraulic line or some avionics cables or something like that, and we almost had a loss of vehicle because they
Yeah.
were unable to detank, and this sort of just became a pressure cooker situation. And luckily, a burst disc in the nose prevented that from happening. But yeah, just a little bit of fun Starship testing trivia. They have in fact messed up the Martite or the concrete or whatever you want to call it at the base of the pad. And so, like Thomas said, I bet they're not going to want to redo anything, and they're hoping they don't have to redo anything in that respect. But you never know what 29 Raptor engines are going to do. Presumably SpaceX has a good idea though, and so hopefully it's something they've thought about. But
They can just build a flame deflector. Literally,
you
that
know
would
what,
solve
Thomas?
this.
The
Just
best
build a flame deflector.
the best flame deflector is no flame deflector.
Except,
How
all
about
right, that's
that?
not all right. So the point of the best thing is no thing argument is to reduce complexity. Make the vehicle as simple as possible, but you can add complexity on the ground side of things. And a flame deflector isn't actually that complex. There's no moving parts in a flame deflector. It's a piece
You're
of
right.
normally metal that just sits there. It seems counterproductive to try to avoid. I don't know what they're gaining by not having a flame deflector.
No,
But then
you're
again, I don't work for SpaceX, so take what I say with a grain of salt.
what they're gaining is not having to make a flame deflector.
And then they're gonna have to redo the concrete and have a flame deflector when they realize that didn't work.
Hey, but you don't realize, like, maybe they don't need it, and if they don't need it, then that's one less thing that they need, and that's kind of like the SpaceX first principles
Yeah.
type deal, where it's like, well, everyone thinks it's stupid that we're not going to do this thing, but hey, maybe it turns out that we don't actually need it. But I do find that a funny contrast between the whole mantra of like stage 0, which is what Elon has been known to call the launch site and the infrastructure related to launch. Stage 0 can have infinite mass, so let's put
Right.
arms on the tower and take the legs off the ship, and let's put or booster, and let's put all this crazy stuff on the ground side and reduce mass on the vehicle itself. But some of that mass doesn't need to be a flame diverter. Shuffle that away. Like, no, just build a flame diverter. Come on. But I'm eager to see how that goes. Anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to derail us completely there. I just wanted to
You're
mention-
good. You're good. I'm gonna try to go through some more super chats right quick. Chris
Cool.
K with $20 super chat. Thank you very much. James Powers has an interesting question. Hey guys, thanks for the coverage this morning. Heading out to Starbase next week. A few questions for those heading out to Starbase. Do y'all have any suggestions for food or things to do in the area? And also, can people stop and chat with y'all? Is the other question.
I mean, I can't speak for Steven or Nick, but I suspect the answer is the same. When I'm down there shooting, I absolutely love it when people come up and say, hey, and let me know that they watch our streams. And it's one of those experiences that is surreal and amazing. And my response is always just, thanks for watching. Like, we thank the super chatters and we thank our members. Thank you to all of the super chatters and all of the members. You guys are awesome. But really, thank you to all of everybody that watches. We have an audience that is so amazing and so receptive and so excited about the future of spaceflight. And absolutely, if you see us hanging out at Starbase, and come on up and say, hey, we're nothing but thankful for our viewers, and it's always awesome to meet our viewers, and especially surreal when they're wearing our merch. It's happened to me multiple times where someone wearing one of our shirts or something will come up and be like, hey, are you Jack Byer? And I'm like, one, how did you know it was me? I feel like I am nobody. And two, thank you so much for buying our merch and watching our streams, because we can't do what we do without that. So thank you. Where to eat? Ultimo Taco is really good. Let's see. What is the name of that sushi place? Oh my gosh. NASASpaceflight, not sponsored by various Brownsville businesses. There's a sushi place right there on South Padre Island, right when you get off the bridge. That's not bad. Yeah, and in terms of things to do, I mean,
yeah, things to do. We are looking at it. Like, go stand by the launch site. Go stand at the production site. Walk around. There's so much to see.
Yeah, have a barbecue on Boca Chica Beach, or maybe just have a beach day, or hang out in the dunes and watch them work. You can always go to South Padre Island and do some surfing. I know Gene and Rachel do surf lessons from S Padre, so check them out if you feel like some excellent surf instruction. There's also Sea Turtle Inc. on South Padre Island, which SpaceX has worked with and continues to work with to protect the sea turtles there on Boca Chica Beach. So
that's great.
Yeah, you can go to Sea Turtle Inc. and they have sea turtles that have been rescued from Boca Chica that have names like Falcon Heavy and Starship. It's hilarious. Like it's really cute, and who doesn't love some cute turtles? So
I
definitely,
want to meet a turtle named Raptor Engine.
yeah, that'd be cool. I feel like that would be really cool. A turtle named like TN, like turtle number, like TN 420 or something.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but yeah, if you have a family, I feel like Sea Turtle Inc. would be a hit. And just I think like just exploring the area it's a really beautiful area. There's a wildlife sort of a wildlife tour that you can do. Just go to Brownsville's website and there's like it's like a birding thing where you can go. I think you can even go to the landfill, which I know I'm recommending somebody goes to a landfill. But seriously, I think you can drive up to the top of the landfill. It's been on my to-do list forever, and look for birds and stuff up there. And it might just be like a cool angle on Demos, and it might just be, something to do. Just explore. There's a sable palm plantation right on the border. I mean, just go and have fun, and I'm sure you'll fill all of your time and you'll want to go back because there'll be things that you didn't get a chance to do. I know one of our members was saying something like they were parasailing. They were there recently and they were I forget which of our members was that. Sorry, whoever that was. But yeah, there's even it's a classic beach town. South Padre Island is. There's activities such as parasailing and dolphin watching and deep sea fishing. It all depends on really what you're into. I mean, heck, you could lounge at various hotels there, just on the patio with a view of Starship and jump in the pool and enjoy some relaxation. So lots of things to do there. Hope you enjoy your trip. I know you will, and definitely props for checking out the area while it is how it is right now. I know I say this a lot, but it's changing rapidly. And if you have the means and the time and the ability to go check it out and see what it looks like and how it feels now, I highly recommend it because it's going to only get more and more crazy and more different and more like a real launch site, honestly. Right
Bring
now it's sort
sunscreen.
of yeah, right. Right now it's still kind of the Wild West, and it's sort of still building rockets in the backyard in a tent, sort of vibe. And so yeah, definitely recommend going now if you can, and sort of getting a feel for what this exact moment in history is.
Going through more super chats here. From Sukramdi with $10 Canadian. On the boosters / ships looking a bit rough, would an unpainted Falcon 9 or other rocket look all that different without a coat of paint?
No, the Falcon 9s are all built using like way as automated as possible like processes, and they have so much experience building those. Those would all look pretty clean even before the coat of paint. The what you're seeing in Boca Chica is their progression through different stages of manufacturing and figuring out the initial prototypes and the manufacturing methods they use to build those not being as good, and then as they refine those, the build quality improves. There's also probably a lot of smaller parts that didn't even get assembled or stacked with other ones because they simply were not at a high enough build quality. So you're seeing a progression that happens with every test program when they're learning to build new vehicles on how just to build them most effectively. If you look at maybe the very first time they were building like Falcon 9 tanks and stuff like that, yeah, maybe. But if you looked at current Falcon 9s, they'd look very, very clean because that's such a refined and practiced manufacturing method.
Yeah, some insight from a friend of NASA Spaceflight, the everyday astronaut, Tim. He actually had an interview with Elon where Elon was talking about how manufacturing was undervalued, which I agree with. And the more that we sort of see them iterate on designs, I 100% agree.
Yeah, it's a favorite Elon adage, right? That building the machine that makes the machines is harder than actually building the rockets themselves, which I can identify with. It's a lot of times it's harder to build a process around a thing than it is to actually do the thing. And I can speak to that directly with our daily videos.
Don't say that, yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's harder to build a machine that produces a video every single day than it is to just sit here and edit the videos every single day. But I can't always be the one to do it. It really makes sense from Elon's. There's a reason he says it a lot. But to Sakrumdi's point here, I think one of the things that makes Starship and Super Heavy look sort of rough is and more rough than an unpainted Falcon 9 would, is that they're comprised of a series of rings that are stacked into barrel sections. Whereas I don't know how large the tankage chunks of Falcon 9 are when they assemble it, but it's definitely not a series of 6 foot tall like aluminum rings, right? So I think an unpainted Falcon 9 would be composed of bigger parts and therefore look less rough in that respect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
Um,
Whereas opposed to looking like with all of these rings sort of on top of each other, it's going to be
yeah.
Maybe a fewer rings, if in rings at
Yeah,
all.
exactly. And I do sort of think of, again, back to like how the newer versions of the newer prototypes of Starship make the older ones immediately look weird and obsolete. It's the same as Falcon 9 going from pre-Block 5 to Block 5. If you guys know, Falcon 9 started out sort of all white, and when they finally hit that big Block 5 evolution, they shifted to a black inner stage and black legs. Um, and it just looked for like 30 seconds I was like, ew, I don't like the black and white look. I like the classic all white Falcon 9. And then you look at an all white Falcon 9 and you're like, wow, that looks wrong. That
Right,
looks
yeah.
weird and wrong. And I think part of that is a testament to SpaceX's aesthetic capabilities, and their stuff looks good. They care about making their stuff look good, and when they come out with a new model of something, it is often immediately making the previous version look weird and obsolete, which is really kind of hilarious and pretty cool.
All right, from Def Not a Ghost, we've got at NASASpaceflight, will the cryo-proof for Booster 4 happen on the orbital launch mount?
Seems like it.
Yeah, it looks like it. All the engines are installed, so I don't know if there's going to be any sort of thrust simulator action at any point, but they'd have to work around that, or if they can just do a cryo-proof kind of as it is. But seeing as they didn't send this off to the suborbital site first or anything, looks like they'll be doing some cryo-proofing at the orbital launch mount.
That said, I would not be surprised if they are just doing more fit checks with the orbital mount, and then they take it off the orbital mount, finally finish scrapping Booster 3, and then they throw Booster 4 on Pad A, suborbital A.
Oh yeah, could be.
They could.
That's always possible. It's sort of hard to say how that's going to go right now, especially given the status of the orbital tank farm. You can sort of see on the left side of the frame here, that orbital tank farm. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that it's ready to support a cryo-proof yet. I think those nitrogen tanks, of which there are 2, don't have cryo shells yet, and I think as of yesterday, and probably still today, the hatches on them are open. So the nitrogen tanks for the orbital launch pad are not yet functioning. I don't know that they could pipe nitrogen over from the suborbital side. I know some people have said that they've seen on like RGV's photos evidence that they installed some plumbing from the suborbital pad to the orbital pad. I don't know that for sure. So yeah, it's hard to say where they'll cryo it, but I say orbital launch pad or suborbital A both of those are good bets.
I absolutely agree with you with the tank farm. Like, it's getting there, and it's getting there very quickly, but it is not there yet.
Correct. I agree. And there was a long pause, seemingly, and now it's sort of like the pace on the tank farm has picked up again, and that's got to be one of the long pulls to getting to orbital flight, is getting that orbital tank farm and the rest of the associated ground support equipment, plumbing on the tower, plumbing on the QD arm, plumbing on the launch mount, like all of that stuff taken care of. And of course the FAA, that's another long pull, but we don't need to talk about that right now.
Let's see, from Philip. Woo, I'm not even going to try the last name. From Denmark, thanks for what you're doing. And question, how are you guys doing today? I'm doing great, Philip. Thank you very much. And thank you for the 50 Denmark krona.
Doing good. No complaints.
Yeah, thank you.
From Rockwell Tory, congrats, Jack and Michael, on the Firefly coverage. Godspeed, Booster 4. Thank you very much as well.
Yeah, thank you, Tori. That was one of the craziest things that I've ever seen. And the only reason I don't say it was the craziest thing I've ever seen is because I've seen Starship fly. But yeah, wow. Just way to go, everybody at Firefly, for getting that rocket safely away from the pad and like 50,000 feet in the air, getting all that delicious flight data. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
All that precious flight data. That's a more
I'd call
appropriate
it delicious.
statement.
I like data.
But yeah, thanks. I mean, I'm very thankful for a safe flight that got them data, and I'm looking forward to them flying again. And just always important to remember that while it was cool to see, a big explosion, that vehicle is representative of so many human hours and human years, honestly, of work equivalent, right? And those people have poured their hearts and souls into that thing, and we're definitely not rooting for them to fail, and we're definitely not taking joy in a failure. We're just trying to enjoy the success that they did in fact achieve a clean liftoff from the pad, and however long of a flight it was, 50 seconds or something, maybe longer. I actually don't know how long the flight was. Either way, thank you for that, Rockwell Torrey. I know Michael, do you have any thoughts on Firefly?
It was a cool explosion. So if it was going to fail, I think that was the way to do it.
You know what my favorite part of my footage is?
The fairing coming off?
Nope. It's
When it goes upside down?
It's about 500 milliseconds before it starts to flip, and you can hear Michael go, "Not good."
No,
I heard that,
before
yeah.
it explodes, not before it flips.
Okay, right, before it explodes.
Because I see it flip in my
Yeah.
viewfinder, and I realize what actually happened. The reason I reacted that way is it was going up and into the sun, kind of from our vantage point. So
Yeah.
it was kind of hard to see, and I kind of looked away for a second and was adjusting my tripod to kind of shield the sun a bit. And I looked back at the rocket, and it had gone from what seemed to be perfectly nominal. Of course, we know now that an engine failed early in flight, but we had no idea watching it live that an engine had failed. So we thought it was going great. And then I looked back at it, and it was upside down.
Yeah, that was something. My other favorite part of that is when the public affairs officer for Vandenberg Space Force Base came over to me and in a questioning tone said, "So first responders said to take cover?" And I responded back, "First responders said to take cover?" Because I've never heard anything like that before. And the public affairs officer, calm as day, was just like, "Yep, let's get in the vehicle." And if you listen closely on the video, you can even hear that. I just love how he said it as a question, I said it back to him as a question. It's comedy of errors. Anyways, thank you so much, Rockwell Torrey. And look at that, the shackle or the block is going back up.
Back up. Looks like they removed the mount for the cryo shell.
Yeah, look at that.
From Remy Turk, we've got a 69 euro super chat. Thank you very, very much, Remy. William Contino, great work you do with a $20 super chat. William, thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you, everybody who's watching, and thank you, everybody who is putting in some super chats and helping us keep the lights on. From Musical Wolves, our buddy Musical Wolves, was the majority of Booster 4 to clear the high bay so they can stack another Starship? I don't know if we have any info to that, do we?
No, I think they were ready to start testing. Because there's not much use in stacking new vehicles until you get these tested. If they were looking to get stuff out of the way, just to make way for more stacking, but they weren't going to test it, like they could scrap the vehicles if they knew they weren't going to test them. But right now, what they need is the testing data from cryoproofing and static fires on Starship 20 and Booster 4. Yes, they'll have space in the high bay and to do stacking stuff if they want to, but they also might want to keep that open in case they find something during testing that they have to roll it back and work on it. So I don't think it's correct to say that they just moved it to the launch site to get it out of the way. I think they're ready for testing.
I do know that Nick recently caught the aft dome of Booster 5 getting sleeved, or maybe he caught it after it was being sleeved. Either way, we've seen that aft section of Booster 5. So we are getting to the point where they're going to be stacking the next booster soon, presumably. And perhaps they are happy now that they have room in the high bay. Maybe that was part of it, but like you said, Thomas, I suspect they would want to leave it open in case they decide to roll 4 back. But presumably the high bay could hold 2 boosters at once. But then I guess where do they stack Starship, the nose cone on S-21? I don't know. It's like one of those puzzle games where you have one piece removed and you kind of have to shuffle everything around into the right place with only one space to move everything. It's tricky, and they're definitely going to be enjoying having the new high bay when that's done.
What's that called? Is it Tower of Babel? Is that what it's called? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Question from Beej AZ in the chat. Is liquid nitrogen used only for cryoproofing?
It's also used to condition the fuel and the propellant because they chill that stuff, and the nitrogen is cold, so that's useful for that in a heat exchanger situation. You can see the subcoolers here. Actually, it's those weird, like, almost looks like a homebrew setup. It's if this black and white crane here on the left side of the frame, you can see sort of underneath it, there's 2 subcoolers. Those will be, if I'm not mistaken, methane, because the right side when you're looking at it is methane, and the left side when you're looking at it is LOX. Again, if I'm not mistaken. And in between is the liquid nitrogen tanks. So those subcoolers there, that is part of that whole propellant conditioning system. And I'm sure, I do wonder what else is liquid nitrogen used for. It's used for conditioning propellants. It's used for cryoproofing. I feel like I could be forgetting something.
I think you've got the main ones.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, some more super champs rolling on in. From Super Cleary Photo. If you don't mind me nerding out, can you talk a bit about how Starship doesn't have a traditional stage separation setup and how it is different?
Right. So Elon has talked about this a little bit recently. The basic idea is that right before the booster engines shut down after first stage flight's about to end, the engines will gimbal a little bit to have just a little bit of roll in the 2 vehicles as the engines shut down, and then as the stages separate, if you've seen a Starlink launch, that's the best way to describe it. You see how they spin up the upper stage and the payloads that are attached to it, and once that happens, the satellites kind of naturally just fan out. It's that concept applied to just the booster and the Starship, and that kind of eliminates the need for a mechanism between the 2 stages to attach and separate the 2 of them. That's the kind of broader, like upper level way of describing how that'll work.
I don't know if people still say yeet, but it's just like the yeet method of stage separation. It's just literally the booster is just going to throw the Starship with inertia. Looks like we have some breaking news. I need a soundboard. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I need a soundboard. Breaking news from Nick in the field, who's operating this camera. That on the public address system, they have announced that they are clearing the orbital tank farm for the booster for lift. So we are moving into lift operations here. That's a good sign that they are getting ready to get this thing mounted onto the orbital launch pad.
Rain-assisted takeoff forthcoming. In the meanwhile, from Terry Heaton, I noticed that first off, it's a $20 super chat, but I noticed during Booster 4's move that the teeth of the grid fins are actually half circles that match the tubes of the chopsticks. What say you? So I think you're sort of insinuating that the booster will be caught by the grid fins, which would not be true.
Correct.
There's actually 2 little hard points. You can actually kind of see it on the photo just a little bit. It's just below where those grid fins are, and they'll actually be caught by those.
Yep. If there's any similarity between the contour of the grid fins, that's kind of a.
They're both circles, I guess.
Yeah, like that's a coincidence, but we do know exactly where they're at least currently intending to lift the booster from as far as catches go and as far as stacking operations go. There's 2 hard points that are pretty small. You have to really look close for them, but they are not using the grid fins for that purpose, although that could be a future evolution.
from in the just the regular chat a little while ago, but I wanted to address it. Marcel Nikolai, did the COPVs like that or stay like that during the launch? The COPVs are those little black sort of tanks at the bottom of the booster, and normally we've seen them be on the inside of a rocket. But well, I mean, SpaceX has had some maybe dodgy experience with COPVs in the past. So they're asking. I guess they're asking if they're going to stay uncovered in any kind of way for the launch.
I
Wouldn't-
bet they get covered at some point. Now, do they need them for the first launch? Don't know. Are they going to cover them after cryoproofing or something? Not sure. That's something we're going to have to wait and see on. But it would be a little bit surprising if they just left the COPV kind of on the outside like that with no aerodynamic considerations and also just no extra protection from
I
the
agree with
forces of
that. I
flight.
think that if they don't cover it, they will continue to have problems with COPVs.
I think if they don't cover it on 4, they'll cover it on future ones. But I mean, Hopper flew with exposed COPVs. I know Hopper didn't go
Yeah,
supersonic
Hubbard,
or anything
right,
like
yeah,
that,
that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
but there is a little bit of precedent there. I mean, again, SN5 and SN6 had external COPVs, if I'm not mistaken. Now I'm second guessing myself, but
I think they
Yeah.
did too, but the difference is the speeds
Speed.
at which
Yeah.
Booster 4 is going to be flying.
yeah, that makes perfect sense. But Thomas, the best aero cover is no aero cover.
Oh my god. You're right,
That's
and the
gonna-
best COPV is no COPV as it
Yes.
flies off
Oh,
mid-flight.
Yeah. That's gonna become
like
the
it.
new the friends we made along the way. It's gonna be the best blank is no blank.
From Devin Love and Fosse, a $5 super chat. Thomas and Jack at Boca Chica, Temba, his arms wide.
Shaka, the walls or the Starship launched.
From Nick Aloni, he got a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Tony P Gaming. This is a little bit interesting. So it's a £10 super chat. Random prediction: when the new SpaceX branded crane arrives, it will be used during the wide bay, then deployed to ship handling duties at the launch site. Can you talk to anybody know anything about a SpaceX branded crane arriving?
Yeah, there was a crane very similar to the big one that you're seeing on this screen here, the really colorful one. And I'll be honest, I don't remember what we're calling these things these days, but the
That is Franken crane.
Franken crane, thank you.
Franken crane, Thomas. Have some.
Because all the parts are yeah. All right, I should have figured that one out.
It's
You're
the
right.
second largest crawler crane in the world, I think, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
believe that is correct. I believe one similar to that, like from the same company, is being delivered with SpaceX branding on it. Like SpaceX will actually own the crane rather than this one which they're currently leasing. Could be used to help build the wide bay. Could also just replace the one they're leasing so that they're no longer like in a lease or whatever. But yeah, there's going to be SpaceX will have their own, which is interesting because at the launch site, the launch tower is going to have those arms that are going to be used for stacking operations. So it's a little weird that they want like another crawler crane, but I could see them using it for other things such as wide bay construction and things like that. So,
Well, don't forget, Thomas. There's going to be a second orbital launch pad.
this is
and
true.
And
Oh, yeah.
a second tower, and it's interesting that rather than continuing to lease, that they would buy their own, because that to me says they foresee themselves needing one of these cranes for a long time. And I do wonder what they would use it beyond building that second tower. What would they use it for? I'm sort of curious, but you're right. Wide bay might make sense. I'm just dying to know what exact model of Liebherr crane it's going to be. I really hope it's one of the bigger ones, and I'm just so excited to see what it looks like. I mean, it's gonna look slick Rick, just like everything else SpaceX does. It's gonna be like black and white, I presume, and it's just gonna look so cool. So.
I'm sure that it'll have it. Definitely, it's just its own sort of aesthetic.
Yep. But yeah, it's curious that they would go through the trouble of purchasing an entire crane. I mean, what do they use it for after they're done building this launch site? Is it something they then ship around to everywhere they decide to build Starship facilities. That's like the crane they use, and maybe they ship it to Kennedy, or maybe they ship it who knows where else, for point-to-point type tower construct. I mean, because if the ship gets caught by the tower, then you need to have a tower at your landing sites, right? Which hurts my head and it kind of makes me gnash my teeth. But anyways, um, yeah, it's SpaceX crane. It's gonna be cool to see. That's my summary.
From the Nope PLS a little while ago in chat at NASASpaceflight, all 8 GSE tanks needed to be used for the orbital flight. Question mark?
All right. Well, I thought I knew the answer, and now I'm second guessing myself.
I think technically it's 7 GSE tanks and a water tank. I guess the water tank is probably still a GSE tank. So 8. I'll shut up. That's a good question, though. I presume.
Think maybe not, because that one tank farm is supposed to support both launch mounts, right? Like,
No.
there's not a second tank farm coming, or is
Yes, there is.
there? Oh, all right. Well, then ignore me. Jeez. All right. So, in that case, then maybe they do need the full complement for the first orbital launch.
Yeah, per FAA planning documents, I believe is where we're getting this from. There is a second orbital launch site, including a mount, a tower, and a tank farm.
Okay.
And that is going to be south of what we're looking at right now, which is frame right, to the right, is what that would be.
This is why I don't do streams by myself, because I need other people to fact check me.
No, I honestly, I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but I can remember stuff like this surprisingly well, which makes me question my sanity a little bit, but hey, it's cool. So my brain
like you
latches
for it,
onto
Jack.
it, I guess. I'm useful. Hooray.
From Kotu Eze Buike. Eze Buike. A $20 Australian super chat. Hello from Melbourne at NASA Spaceflight. What are some things that they are checking during the proof test and static fire?
Melbourne.
So.
It's Melbourne.
Oh,
I'm just,
is
I'm
that like
just
Mounds?
messing.
So the proof test, which happens first, is basically them proving that the tank will withstand the right pressures, the flight pressures. So they pressurize the tank. Usually there is an ambient proof test, which happens first. That test happens at ambient temperature, normal atmospheric temperature, and they pressurize the tank to a certain level to make sure that it is holding pressure and there are no leaks. Once they do that, they do the same test again, but at cryogenic temperatures, which is a very cold temperature that the propellants will actually be at when they're loading the vehicle for flight. And they use that with cryogenic nitrogen, again, chilled to the same temperature as the propellants would be, but they don't use the propellants right away, so that if there is a leak of any kind, there's no risk of a fire or anything like that, because nitrogen is inert, it won't combust, so it's a lot safer to do it that way. Once it passes the ambient and cryogenic temperature proof test, then you move into fueling tests. You fuel it with the actual liquid methane and liquid oxygen, and then that usually is either proceeds or is part of a static fire test. Basically, the only difference between a fueling test called a wet dress rehearsal and a static fire test is whether you light the engines for a couple seconds at the very end. You would go through the normal fueling countdown, the normal fueling procedures, and as long as that's all those systems are working properly, at the very end you also fire a set of engines, either all of them or a subset of them, for a couple seconds to make sure that those systems are also working. For Booster 4 specifically, since it's at the orbital launch site, we know that will be able to withstand the thrust of 29 engines for a couple seconds, because it has to for launch. So it's possible they could do that, but they also could do it sort of sequentially and gradually work their way up to the full engine complement, which means they could static fire 9 engines at once, or even less than that at first, and kind of work their way up. They could also just go straight to 29. If they were doing this testing on the suborbital site, we would know that they need to fire less than that, because the suborbital pads are not built to withstand that much thrust. But for Starship 20 purposes, they could do Starship 20 static fires over there, and that would be fine. So those are the kind of things they're looking for. They're looking at, can the tanks hold pressure at both ambient and then cryogenic temperatures? And then they're also testing all of the ground equipment. Are the fueling lines working properly? Are the propellant lines within the vehicle working properly? Are your command systems that you use to command valves and things like that all working properly? also just giving the teams practice on going through fueling countdowns. There's some value there as well, the launch teams. So that's part of it. And then, of course, for static fires, checking the health of the engines, making sure they were all hooked up properly, all of the feed systems are working correctly. All of those kind of things are what they're checking during proof and static fire testing.
We get a little round of applause in the chat for everybody here at NASA Spaceflight that has the knowledge base that they do. Because every time I'm super impressed. My goodness. Whatever Bo's answer. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all morning.
Goodness. All right, from Matt Miller, we got a $5 super chat. Matt, thank you so much. Appreciate you a ton. Let's see, we already got Devin Lovin Fossey. Thank you very much as well. From Giulio Dondi. Great work as always, NSF. How can the heat shield survive interplanetary entry if it's similar to shuttles? Don't you need an ablative shield?
So if you had the exact same heat shield as shuttle, then yeah, obviously the shuttle heat shield was not designed for
Does it have
interplanetary
the exact
reentry.
same heat shield?
It does not. It is
Yeah.
very similar. The similarity is they're both using these silica foam tiles. Although I don't know, is it foam? It's a ceramic tile.
Yeah.
But so the difference being this heat shield has been designed for the interplanetary reentry speeds, which obviously comes with a huge increase in energy, and is designed to do that multiple times. They're designed to be reusable, which is also similar to the shuttle heat shield, and is why they're not doing an ablative heat shield. Ablative heat shields are inherently not reusable because in order to dispel the energy, they pretty much burn away effectively, which means you can't really do it again because the heat shield's not there anymore, really. So that's the difference between a ceramic heat shield and a ablative heat shield. You can design, the thickness of the tiles, the exact material you're making the tiles out of. Those characteristics are changed based on what energy you're expecting to need to protect the vehicle from. So while it is a similar process than they use for shuttle, and the fact that they're making a reusable heat shield, they have changed the properties of the tiles themselves to withstand multiple reentries at interplanetary velocities. That said, Starship 20 is not going interplanetary, so it's possible that those specific heat shield tiles are actually maybe a low Earth orbit version that maybe are a little bit thinner or something like that. I don't know if they are, but it could be possible that they'll actually have a slightly different heat shield tile design for the ones that go interplanetary, so that the ones that don't go interplanetary can have a lighter heat shield. I have no idea. That would be something that they could do. I don't think we've heard anything to that end, but that's just another factor to consider, that these might not be the interplanetary heat shield tiles, if that's going to be a thing.
I think we're all fired because it took us 52 minutes into this stream before we mentioned shuttle. Nobody tell Chris B.
I mean, there's no Chris on the stream yet, so
It's got to happen one way or the other. It took us 50 minutes. I think that might be a record.
I would like to point out that we even worked shuttle into the Astra stream at some point. I forget how, but we did.
Yeah.
So.
All right, from our buddy Musical Wolves, frequent supporter of the channel. Can you compare the shuttle SRB thrust, the solid rocket booster thrust, to Super Heavy?
Oh gosh, hold on, I gotta Google numbers.
Give
me a second.
Here, I'll ramble for you here.
Okay, good.
The thing about solid rocket boosters, I'm so sorry. Now, if we had Chris B or Chris G on the stream, I know they'd probably be able to rattle that off. I know. Oh God, Chris B is in chat listening. Joseph Smith in chat says 4 SRBs equals 1 Super Heavy. I don't know if that's true or not. Let's see if we can get you to confirm there, Thomas.
Yeah, I'm checking. All right, so a single shuttle solid rocket booster, which, by the way, in case you are unaware, is the most powerful rocket motor ever flown to date, is the shuttle SRBs, like one single motor producing thrust.
Yeah, they are insane.
They are
huge
absolutely
and insane.
Produces 12,000 kilonewtons of thrust, and if we go over to our buddy SpaceX Raptor engine, totally just pulling these off Wikipedia, by the way, that thrust gets you oh wait, hold on, that's not right. Is it? No, that's not right. Hold on, I'm finding bad numbers. Give me a second.
No, go do your numbers. I will wax philosophically about the solid rocket boosters, because you know what's interesting in relation to Starship is those solid rocket boosters were reused. It's something a lot of people don't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they would, and it's crazy, Derek. They would basically splash down in the ocean. They had their own parachutes in the little nose cone area up there. The boosters would splash down in the ocean, and recovery ships would come up. People in like wetsuits would get out and go up to the boosters and sort of attach recovery hardware and float, like refloat the boosters, because when they would land, they would sort of be in a vertical orientation in the water, and they sort of insert a plug into the nozzle of the thing and purge the water so that they float horizontally, just sort of like a big pontoon, and then they would drag them back into the port and refurbish them. And it wasn't the case that they refurbished them sort of one to one. It was sort of like they bits and pieces, and so one solid rocket motor comprised of, what is it, four segments?
Yeah, the shuttles were 4 segments. Yep.
Segments from one booster from one mission could be used on multiple different solid rocket boosters from different missions. Then on, like,
Yep.
basically those casings, each of those 4 segments could be sort of swapped and interchanged. But yeah, a lot of that stuff got reused. And in fact, Thomas, is it correct that on the first several Artemis missions with the SLS, they're going to be reusing casings that flew on shuttle missions?
Yes, so then I believe there's a couple articles on the NASA Spaceflight site that have the actual flight histories of all the shuttle missions that each casing on each booster has flown before. Some of the casings are new, a bunch of them are reused. Also, the RS-25 engines on the SLS core stage are being reused from shuttle missions, and the flight history of those have been published as well. And if you've not seen the YouTube video from NASA on recovering the shuttle boosters, please watch it. It's one of the coolest videos on the internet.
So just like open another tab, go add it to your watch later, and then come back. So, because that's how I know that how they recover them is because I've watched that video.
So we're getting confirmations from the Chris's in our back channel saying that we're getting all this right, so that's good.
Great,
Back
I'm
on
not
the
fired.
question of thrust. So the shuttle rocket boosters, 12,000 kilonewtons, also known as 12 meganewtons. The super heavy thrust, as stated on SpaceX.com, that's the number I'm going to choose to cite, is 72 meganewtons, which means it takes 6 shuttle solids to have the exact same thrust as super heavy.
Goodness.
So there you go.
All right.
6 shuttle SRBs equals 1 super heavy. And now someone is going to go build that in Kerbal.
I'm sure they already have.
There
All right.
you go.
From Kendall Winters, I love my Hoppy Sad shirt. Hey, what's the link to the store again?
Ooh, I think it might be shop.nasaspaceflight.com.
Shop.nasaspaceflight.com.
Didn't we have a big argument as to whether or not it should be shop.nasaspaceflight.com or store.nasaspaceflight.com?
I think that was a decent argument. Yeah.
I think
To
they
be
both
honest,
work.
I type in store.nasaspaceflight.com every time I go to it and then be like, whoop, nope, wrong one.
They both work, but we had a debate as to which was the official one. But yes, there is a merch store. There is
And
merch.
right on screen, we can see it right there. Look at that little one hop.
I love that little face.
Love it.
It actually has sort of that face in real life too, with like the lighting and the camera truss structure. Like it's just so lovable. I love Hopper. It'll always have a place in my heart, and you can show your love of Hopper too with a Star Hopper When Hop T-shirt.
We got the When Orbit line that's coming out now, or that we have out now, and then the I Was There shirt for the stacking, the initial stacking of Booster 4 and Ship 20.
Yep, I love that we have sort of different eras of shirt. So if you've been with us since the beginning and you are wearing like the original Tank Watcher shirt without the nose cone on, it looks like a SN5 era Tank Watcher shirt. Like, oh man, that's super cool. And this I Was There T-shirt is kind of the same way. Like it's a shirt from a moment in time, or like the SN15 Landing Club shirt. It's I don't know. I like that we have milestone T-shirts.
All right, from the chat real quick, we've got a super chat from Deg63 from South Australia. Thank you very much. And also one from Nerdly Knight. Thank you for the super chat as well. A couple new members, Pierce Birch and James Atkinson. Thank you very much. And Brian Algren with a super chat as well. Thank you all for the continued support. Helping keep the lights on. Appreciate you guys a lot. Very, very much. So from Pascal Appletech, Can we expect a static fire with all engines soon?
Soon? Well, I don't know about soon.
Depends on how you define soon.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll go with soon, but at some point, I believe that's probably going to be in the plans, if I had to guess. But there's going to be a lot of steps before that, including proof testing, and probably some static fires with subsets of engines first, before the full 29.
See, from Erasmus in the chat, NASA Spaceflight, why would they do another fit test with Booster 4? I think that they're talking about onto the launch mount. They've done a lot of work on the launch mount since that initial stacking.
Yeah, there's been work on the launch mount. There's been work on the booster itself with new engine connections and stuff. I don't remember if all of those like COPVs and stuff were also installed on the bottom last time, or if so any of that they were. But there might have been other equipment near the bottom that is new, just not the obvious bits. So there could be things that are different in that engine section that they need to recheck. Also, probably more directly related to any work they've done on the launch mount itself. But I think it is more likely that they're getting ready for proof and static fire testing, based on the fact that they have done some fit checks already. But they could be doing it could still be part of it.
I like this one from chat from Pauline Brock. What is that structure on the lower right, and why is it growing fur?
So that is sort of a berm that is between the launch site and the landing pad. Just to the right of this is the landing pad. Well, it's basically just a pile of dirt that is now growing grass. Yeah. So there's some grass on it now, but yeah, it basically works to protect all of the equipment at the launch site from the thrust of a landing vehicle over on the landing pad. So it just forces the force of the thrust up into the air instead of into the tanks and stuff like that. It's very similar to if you're ever been to an airport and you see like the weird fence looking things that look like they're kind of curved up into the air. Same concept, directing thrust up and away from ground equipment.
A question from Giuseppe Glorioso. Is there a possibility that more Ship 20 tiles break during static fire tests?
Is it possible?
Is
Yeah,
it
it's
possible?
possible.
Yeah.
They're going to certainly hope that doesn't happen, but...
I'm sure referencing that we saw some tiles crack and break and even fall off during the initial movement from Ship 20 going from the production site over to the launch site.
Yeah, we definitely did, and that's something to keep an eye on. They're still working on the best ways to attach the tiles, clearly, and then as well as just keeping the tiles themselves intact. That's part of this development program. Heat shield development is not an easy thing. So we'll have to see. That might be part of the static fire test objectives is how's the heat shield react to vibrations and things like that. And then that might be a reason for work between a static fire test and moving on to the next milestones, to repair or evaluate the heat shield a little bit more.
And just like you said, it's not easy for a non-ablative heat shield as well.
Great.
I like this one from Daniel Ladishu. Are y'all excited for the possibility of future Lego kits of various SpaceX rockets?
Yes, very much so.
I do not have the... well, goodness, the name suddenly escapes me. The big rocket. 5 engines,
Saturn
black
5.
and white. My goodness, Saturn 5. Thank you. What a good morning, everybody. How are you?
It's morning. You got to pass on that.
I could have
That's a
drawn
morning
it
thing.
for you. I couldn't remember the word Saturn. I was like, there's 5 engines. There's Saturn 5. Yeah, the big Saturn 5 Lego one. I do not have one yet.
You know what's funny? Saturn. So, because SpaceX named the Falcon 9 after the fact that it had 9 engines, but Saturn 5 is the 5th. I think is a 5th version of a Saturn rocket. Like what? I know. I don't think it's like a Saturn 4 never flew. I don't think, but there were like designs up to 5. I don't think it was named Saturn 5 because of the engine count, was it? Can someone tell me where the 5 from Saturn 5 came from? Chat. What's the deal?
The engine. I don't know.
I thought that was because there's a Saturn 1 which does not only have 1 engine, so that doesn't make any sense. And normally, because Saturn V is written with the Roman numeral, which normally indicates a version number rather than a number of engines. Like Atlas V doesn't have 5 engines. Chat, let me know if I'm being dumb.
We got some people saying version 5.
I thought that was a design version, not a.
Someone said it was after the number of F1 engines. I don't know. Maybe it was both. I don't know.
Oh, now I gotta Google it. Saturn V name.
All right. Well, while you're going through that,
The Saturn program was named for the next planet after Jupiter. Thank you, Wikipedia. Very helpful.
oh, okay. The more you know. From Anand Tadapalli. Is the landing pad useless now that Elon plans on catching both Starship and Super Heavy?
Okay, so in theory, he plans on catching both the booster and the booster and Starship.
That's the eventual goal.
I think in the near term, that landing pad will get plenty of use, at least on the Starship side of things. But I suppose it's not impossible for that to change.
I got an interesting one, and I don't know. I know I don't have the answer, and I don't know if anyone else does. We've gotten this a lot, talking about the heat shield tiles, and do we know what the different colors of tape on Ship 20, the tiles on Ship 20, do we know what those mean?
I don't think we know like the code of what colors mean what, but
there's some green, some red, and some blue.
Yeah, I don't think we know the code, but
there's also tiles that just had the word "okay" written on them.
Yeah, just like written with chalk or something. Yeah.
So it could have been the case that the colors were varying levels of damage, but yeah, it seemed like the ones that were good, they just wrote "okay" on.
Yeah. What we can say is that there's fewer and fewer pieces of tape every single day.
Yep. Yeah, it's looking really ridiculously good. I mean, I remember thinking, man, what is a Starship with a full heat shield going to look like? When are we even going to see that? How long is it going to take them to make all those complex tiles and figure out how to mount them? And we're there now, and it looks amazing. And they figured it out.
All right, I've got a Saturn V answer, and I kind of feel silly because I feel like I did know this in the back of my brain, but I was just forgetting it. It was not based on the engine count. So there were 3 like series of Saturn rockets: Saturn A, Saturn B, and Saturn C. And the design that was Saturn C5, it was the 5th Saturn C design, is the one that became the one we call Saturn V. There were 4 other versions of the Saturn C that were not flown, but they were part of the design process. And basically, the 5th design iteration is the one that actually got to flight. So I was correct. It is not related to the engine count. That's a pure coincidence.
Yeah, and speaking of Saturn V, we have a fun fact here from Mr. Huggy saying, another fact is that we're thinking of using 4 SRBs for the first stage of Saturn V, and I'm going to post into chat this link here. And the fun thing about those SRBs that they were considering is they were Minutemen 3 ICBM stages.
Oh.
And they also
So
looked
good.
at using Titan missile ICBM, and this is this is an amazing graphic from the Chrysler Corporation here, which has the Chrysler logo. It just I cannot express my love for this image enough. I'm gonna post it in chat again. Just shows you some of the crazy stuff they looked at, and I still think we should do a space engineering study show or podcast of some kind, because the sorts of things that they look at all sorts of things, and some of them are just downright wacky. Here's the article that I got that from. I just linked it there in chat from the High Frontier. It's a really cool article on Saturn variants and Saturn in general. So check that out if you want more Saturn V goodness. But who doesn't? I mean, what's more Kerbal than strapping ICBMs to a massive booster to get even more performance
yeah.
out of it?
Just add
More
boosters.
boosters.
Yeah, exactly. More boosters, more struts.
Just a second ago, for a $10 super chat from David Stennis. Has Elon or anybody said the likelihood of Ship 20 making it to orbit, reentry success, or any other stages?
I think his words were excitement guaranteed. I think that's about all we've gotten out of him so
I
far.
like it. That's an excellent answer.
So really quick, for those who are just joining us or just tuning in, we were going live for the Booster 4 lift, which, as you can see, hasn't actually happened yet. But we did get that PA announcement, Nick on the ground reporting that they were clearing the area for the lift, so that should be pretty much any minute now.
Yeah, so some time ago now at this point.
Yeah, so we're wondering what's going on there. We'll let you know if we get any more updates. But it could be any minute now, and obviously, as soon as it starts moving at all, chat will yell, "Hey, dummies, stop talking about random stuff, and look, the booster's moving." So please let us know if we don't react right away. But we're keeping an eye on that, and hopefully this lift gets underway pretty soon.
But in the meanwhile, if you have any questions for us, just at NASASpaceflight in the chat, and then I will see it, and hopefully we'll be able to get to it for you. From SpaceX Blue, we have a £4 pound. I don't know how to say this. £4.49. Is that accurate? Just finished school and got to see B4 go on to the table. Thank you very much for the support, SpaceX Blue. As well as Frank Ashley 4 wearing my Landing Club bomber jacket right now. That's fantastic. Again, that's shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Let's see, from Mark, didn't Titan need to always be pressurized so it wouldn't collapse on itself?
I think they're thinking of Atlas, although I'm not sure. Maybe Titan also. I could be. I'm not super up on that.
From Lihiz asking, is this for sure a fit check? Because there's no way they are ready to fuel anything. And we spoke to that a little bit already, but I think that they are not yet. The orbital tank farm is not yet ready. It's getting closer every day, but not quite yet. This is an interesting question, and I don't think I fully understand. Maybe I do. From Draco, how do the ridges on the booster allow Ship 20 to be supported? Are they talking about the sort of ridging on the top of the booster?
Yeah, those are called stringers.
Yep.
It's a series of vertical bars, basically. It's just a bunch of structural reinforcement. Thomas, do you have anything there?
I mean, that's basically all it is. There's structural reinforcements at the parts of the booster. I mean, you'll see. The other part is you can kind of see some of them also in the middle of the booster. That's the space between the two tanks. Obviously, there's a common bulkhead, so there's not like a huge intertank, but still, that region they've reinforced a little bit as well, since it's not as supported by the pressurization of the tanks. But then, yeah, that sort of interstage section above the very top of the booster is just a little bit of extra structural support there. That's all that is.
From Saleh Mahmood, why is the integration tower tilted? That is just a trick of the camera, and from the angle, it does look a little tilty. It's not. I promise it's straight up and down. From Kakabaka, are they going to send Booster 4 to high bay after all the checks again? That's an interesting question. I don't know if we know offhand.
Nope, we don't know.
Speculation?
They could, they could not.
Yeah.
Like SpaceX might not know. Like it depends on how the testing goes. So
absolutely could be. Yeah.
Really quick, we had a question in chat. Someone asking about the upcoming next launch out of Vandenberg, which I think is a Starlink launch.
Starlink Group 2-1 no earlier than the 13th.
Yeah, and someone's asking, they want to take their kids to that. They want to know where to go. Ocean Avenue and Renwick. I don't know if it's Renwick Boulevard or what, but look at a map, figure that out. That's about the closest you can get, and you can see the tip of the rocket, which is nice. You can't see the base of the launch pad, but you can see the tip of the rocket. And as soon as it comes over that mountain right there, you are like insanely close, and it's an amazing spot to watch launches from. With the one caveat that you're not going to be able to see the base of the pad, and expect cell service to get absolutely slammed. There'll be people there. there will be a strain on the cell towers, but you will have a front row seat for that launch. Ocean Avenue and Renwick. That is in Lompoc. It's like basically as if you were driving to Surf Beach, but you stop right before the roadblock there. It would be Ocean Avenue and Renwick. Anyways, I just wanted to help. You know, if you're gonna try and go see a rocket in person, I always want to help you out. So just wanted to throw that in there. I know it's not Starship related, but I figured I'd give Giant Rat there an answer.
All right, so when Starship from Vandenberg though?
God, don't. How about dude, Starship from Slick 6, please?
Ooh, there you go.
Who do I have to pay? Let me call up Tori right now.
Slick 6 isn't taken by anyone post Delta, right? Yet? I don't think so.
And not publicly, at least. Slick 6
Yeah.
after the last Delta Heavy, which there's one more Delta Heavy from Vandy, and then who knows what happens with Slick 6. I believe it was supposed to be used for Omega, but of course Omega does not exist anymore.
Right.
So I don't think there is anything at Slick 6 after the last Delta, at least not yet. Imagine.
I mean...
Oh my God, it's such a beautiful. I'm freaking out over here. It's such a beautiful launch.
I mean,
pad.
I'm just saying it was originally designed for shuttle, and Starship is basically the reincarnation of a better version of shuttle.
I say this with zero exaggeration or hyperbole. If Starship ever launched from Slick 6, I would cry so many tears of joy.
Well, Jack, so for people who don't know what Slick 6 is.
Oh, thank you. It's a launch site at Vandenberg Space Force Base that was not originally built for shuttle. I believe it was originally built for Titan or something like that. But it's a launch pad that was set up for shuttle, and they were going to launch into polar orbits from Vandenberg using the space shuttle. They even got as far as doing fit checks with, I believe, Enterprise and a full stack. And there are photos of shuttle on the West Coast at Space Launch Complex 6 at Vandenberg, and it just looks so beautiful. But that was in 1986, right when they were getting ready to, I believe Challenger was the first shuttle slated to launch out of Vandenberg, and a few months, if I'm not mistaken, before that was slated to happen, Challenger had its fateful last flight, and the use of shuttle out of Vandenberg became basically questioned. So they at that point they chose to not ever launch the shuttle from Vandenberg. So they spent however many billions of dollars retrofitting Slick 6 for the shuttle, and never used it for that, thanks to the Challenger accident. But I mean, I could talk about shuttle forever, even though I'm not Chris B or Chris G. The reason they wanted to launch out of Vandenberg for polar orbits is because they wanted to do a thing called orbit once around, where basically they're able to launch, orbit once, and in that single orbit either release or capture a satellite, and then after that one orbit, land back where they took off from, so that it was like a way to do super sneaky either satellite capture, like capture the bad guy's satellite and recover it, or before they can even know what happened, or launch a satellite into orbit and before the bad guys even know what we've done. It's sort of insane, and that's part of the reason why shuttle had those massive wings, even, is because for orbit once around, the Earth rotates underneath.
I was just going to ask that, yeah. So you have to reorient.
Exactly. So you need that cross-range capability to fly like 1,000 miles back to where you took off from, because that spot has rotated underneath your polar orbit. I mean, we've all played Kerbal here, right?
Probably.
So yeah, Slick 6 launch site at Vandenberg, absolutely beautiful. Was for shuttle, never used anyways. I would cry tears of joy if Starship was ever stacked there even. But that's not on the cards as far as any of us know. I don't even think Starship at Vandy is something to even think about in the future, because there's so many environmental restrictions in California, and it took them long enough just to get Falcon 9 cleared from Slick 4. I mean, there's the famous photo of what is it, seals? There's like a seal with a set of headphones on, because they had to test their reactions to sonic boom sounds in order to get clearance to launch Falcon 9s. Like, It's I am questioning whether they'll even be able to launch a full stack from Boca, which is in Texas, which is infamously permissive.
The exact opposite of California.
Yeah, precisely. Like literally polar opposite of California. So,
Polar opposite.
hey, so so yeah, I don't know. I do want to make that clear is that we're not necessarily waiting for Starship to happen from Vandenberg, but gosh, would that be cool? I'm the West Coast guy. I always got to talk about Vandenberg because I love it.
It'd be easier.
Yeah, it's near and dear to my heart.
At
Anyways,
the very least, there'll be an Earth-to-Earth spaceport in Los Angeles, right?
one would hope so, right? And they already have port facilities. You know, I could see you pulling up to a spot in the port of LA and parking your car and getting on a ferry and heading out to a platform just offshore. I mean, that is 110% plausible to me. It's just a matter of time. I mean, really, it's on an infinite time scale. All this stuff's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, just in the fullness of time, certainly.
Precisely.
From Robbie Rob, do you think they're going to static fire the booster before or after Ship 20 is mounted to the top of it?
After. Wait. Before.
Yes. Can I answer yes? Can I say that they might just do both?
That is what I was going to suggest, that they may even do both. Yeah.
That is the verbal equivalent of saying $1 on Price is Right.
But I mean, that's what would make sense to me. But I could definitely before, like for sure. The after is less needed, maybe, but I could see them doing it anyway.
Got an $8 super chat from Martin Wolf coming in just a few minutes ago, as well as Landon Malvik. Landon has a question. Any thoughts on the Inspiration 4 mission? Thanks for your great coverage. I've been watching for over a year now. Thank you very much for the support, Landon, and thank you for watching for a year. My goodness.
Inspiration 4 should be very exciting. Personally, it's good to see a private spaceflight mission going for some, I don't want to say the right reasons, because there are a lot of right reasons to do a private spaceflight, and that's becoming an increasingly prevalent thing. But it's different than some of these suborbital missions that have been happening recently. I think it's great that the Inspiration 4 folks are putting forth this really strong message like, hey, to the people who say there are problems to solve on Earth, so why are we going to space? This is proof that you can do both at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of message they're really trying to send, alongside just inspiring people about spaceflight and all that good stuff. Raising money for St. Jude's is such a great thing, and I wish them the best of luck in that.
Seriously. It's just the best.
Yeah, so very excited for that mission. NASASpaceflight will be providing live launch coverage as always. That is coming up. That is the next launch here from the Space Coast in Florida. Kennedy Space Center Launch Complex 39A. That window technically opens on September 14th local time. A few days before launch, we're going to get a more refined launch window, so we don't really have a time to really shoot for yet. But it will be somewhere in like the 14th, 15th, or 16th of September. In that range is when that launch is currently slated to occur, and so we'll stand by for a more firm launch target, but we're very excited for that mission.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, we can go to space and we can solve the problems here on Earth at the same time. And in fact, going to space should help us solve those problems. And I really think if there's one thing the space fans watching this can sort of do, like something they can actually do to further the goal that we all have of seeing humanity become interplanetary, or at least spacefaring, you can explain to your friends and family that, hey, this isn't about bailing on Earth. This isn't about letting the rich people have a lifeboat on Mars. Rich people are going to hate Mars. They're not going to want to go. It's going to be cold and harsh and dusty, and it's going to take hard work. Does that sound like anything a rich person likes to you? There's not going to be any kind of beach for them to lounge on. There's not going to be any kind of luxury hotel. I mean, it's going to be like hard work. And anyways, I digress. Going into space, you can tell your friends and family who haven't considered the fact that, hey, going into space, we can use industry in space and moving that stuff into orbit to save Earth and to preserve Earth and treat it more like a giant nature preserve versus, why do we need to have mines when we could just mine asteroids? Why do we need to have our metal foundries on Earth and pollute? Anyways, I could go down that. I think it's cool. I think Inspiration is really cool. Inspiration 4, and I'm excited to see that mission happen, and I'm excited to see what Jared Isaacman does in the future beyond Inspiration 4, right? Like, I could totally see him buying a Starship launch in a couple years down the road. I think, if you guys don't know, Isaacman, he owns or founded a company that provides Red Air services, which is like adversarial training capabilities. Like, when one of our services, like the Air Force or the Navy, needs to play war games against a enemy, that's sort of one of the things his company does. So he owns like a bunch of different planes, and he's an avid aviator, and it's interesting to see him get into spaceflight, because if you think about it, in the same way that ships on the ocean need captains, and charter boats need captains, and I feel like, hey, it's only a matter of time before we have starships that are going to need captains, and it's almost like Jared is working his way towards being a starship captain. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit sleep delirious here, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to Inspiration 4, not just because of what it is by itself, but what it signals for the future.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel that. Question just from regular chat from Miguel Perez. Why are they landing Ship 20 in the water?
Because landing it on land is really it's incredibly complex and high risk. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But it is very risky. It's the very first time they're going to attempt a re-entry from orbit with Starship, so the odds of it surviving re-entry are not 100%, obviously, and then anything beyond that, it would be a bonus. So basically, instead of risking a landing pad, and instead of risking re-entry anywhere near one of their land landing pads, especially since the converted oil rigs are not ready yet, they don't really have a low risk option to try and actually land it, so they can do a re-entry and sort of simulate a landing burn if they would choose to, but have it sit in the water and kind of scuttle it that way. Maybe recover debris if there is anything like that, but it's just it's a little extra risk for that first flight that's just not needed. They'll move into actual landing attempts once they have a little more confidence in their ability to do so successfully.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that part of this first orbital flight is, a big part of being able to do it, beyond just having the hardware and having the infrastructure on the launch pad side, is going to be, of course, getting the FAA to sign off on that and give them a launch license to launch a full stack out of Boca Chica, which they currently do not have. And part of that process, part of getting the FAA to say okay, is to make them feel as comfortable as possible. And like you said, it's sort of a risky maneuver to land the ship on the pad from the first orbital attempt. And what is the FAA okay routinely, practically with every rocket launch, is the ditching of parts of that rocket into the ocean as part of the launch, as part of the whole staging process. So it's something the FAA is comfortable and familiar with, and they can just sort of say, hey, it's going into the water like a rocket does, right? And the FAA is just going to be like, cool, that's what rockets do when they're done. They go in the water. We're comfortable with that. I don't know. That's just me spitballing, but yeah, it's an easy way to make it lower risk, like you said, and hopefully part of that making it lower risk means it's more likely to be approved, if that makes sense.
Sure. Makes sense as well. From Martin Wolf, we got a $8 Australian super chat. What are the GSE tanks made out of? 4mm stainless? Question mark. What about the covers and what's in between? For the ones that are already set up.
Oh, so yeah, I believe the GSE tanks are 4mm.
I think they're 4mm stainless, but I'm not positive.
I'm pretty sure they are. So the same steel thickness being used on the vehicles right now. The covers, I don't know what material they are, but I can tell you they're 12-meter diameter. So a little bit wider than the 9-meter diameter, also known as the Starship diameter GSE tanks. And so those shells that go over them, in between the shell and the tank, I think is just drawn to near vacuum. Like, not like super close to vacuum, but like the best way to insulate is to have no material between those two layers, so like the temperature can't be transferred across. Heat transfer occurs.
Wait. Are you saying the best insulation is no insulation?
Oh my god.
Oh,
And with that, Thomas is going to sign off from our live coverage this morning. I mean, but it's right though. You got it right,
no,
Jack. That is
exactly.
basically what they do. They might put like a little bit of nitrogen or something in there, because obviously it's not gonna be like a perfect vacuum or anything. But I believe they draw it pretty close as best they can, and there might be an inert gas used in there a little bit, but it is mostly about putting as much nothing in between the two layers as you can, because that is the best insulator, as Jack so eloquently described.
I wholeheartedly apologize.
From the chat, a couple people were mentioning perlite. Is that the material, perhaps, that the cryo shells are made out of?
What material did they say?
Perlite?
That could be correct. I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
I just don't know one way or the other, so I cannot confirm nor deny, but that sounds plausible.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, so it's just like a thermos, right, where there is a vacuum in between. It works the exact same way, only, to scale. From Wayne Farmer, $5 super chat. Wayne, thank you very much for the support. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody who has been able to put in some super chats, and our members, of course, but also everyone that's just watching. That's plenty of support as well. Thank you guys so much. From Matthew Stenger, when do you think that they will remove the crane lift rings from Ship 20's nose so they can place TPS tiles in the holes? So this is really interesting, because with how Ship 20 is right now, it has those mounts to be lifted by the crane, and you can't put tiles there presently.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised even if they detach the crane like ahead of, say, a cryoproof or a static fire on the ship. I don't think they'll plug those holes until they're ready to go orbital, because it makes sense that the ship is going to need those attach points available for lifting onto the booster when they are ready to go orbital. So it's sort of in the same way that, if you remember, before Starship tests, we would look for installation of the flight termination system as an indication that they were like about ready to test in the next day or two. I think we'll be looking for those attach points to be covered up sort of ahead of an orbital flight, and as an indicator that, hey, they're ready to go. They're covering up the last little pieces. But I don't know, maybe we'll see them remove the crane and test fit some pieces there in the coming days. It'd be interesting. I'm not sure when any of this could or would happen, but like we were saying earlier, that nose cone, every single day there's less of those taped tiles and more fresh, good-looking tiles. And I mean, I just can't get over how absolutely beautiful the heat shield on Starship looks like. It looks like dragon
absolutely.
scales. It just
Right?
Surreal is the word I know I overuse, but is just the best word for it.
Well, it wouldn't be dragon shells. It'd be Starship scales.
There you go.
I like this one from Graham Cracker in chat. I just looked over to see it. So the GSE tanks are the world's largest hydro flasks? No. I can't speak to world's largest necessarily, but it is large. All right.
I have a couple of those, a couple glasses, like whiskey tumblers, that are the same kind of deal, where it's a double-walled thing with a vacuum in it, and it always makes my ice keep.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, just how it works. Physics.
All right. I like this one. So from our opening video that we have. So could you explain the story behind, yikes, you bet we don't need any more of these?
Ooh, I would love to. Because shuttle.
While you do that, I will get the link to it, because we have a video on our channel that explains this. But you go, please.
Oh, fantastic. Do that.
We do. So that soundbite is from the end of the mission control loops at Houston Space at the Johnson Space Center in Houston for the launch of STS-93, which was Space Shuttle Columbia. It was the mission to launch the Chandra X-ray Observatory. And right after liftoff, there was an electrical fault that resulted in basically like they lost a bunch of like redundant engine controllers and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'll probably mess up a detail. But basically, there was an electrical fault right after liftoff. And there is a really good audio loop. It is on our channel of all the mission controllers working through all these issues and trying to figure out what's going on throughout the entire ascent and keeping an eye on making sure performance wasn't affected and things like that. And at the very end, they're coming up on the scheduled time for main engine cutoff to occur. And about 1 second before MECA was supposed to happen, actually, I think it was less than a second. It's like half a second. The engine shut down. So they shut down ever so slightly early. And they'll call out like the velocity at main engine cutoff was like 15 feet per second short of what it was supposed to be, which is almost nothing and didn't affect the mission at all. But it was slightly short. And they realized right then that all of the sensors indicating the liquid oxygen fuel levels had indicated dry when the engine shut down, which is why they shut down early. They didn't shut down because normally you shut down your main engines with a little bit of fuel reserve. You have a little bit more fuel than you actually need. In this particular mission, because of this electrical fault, one of the engines was burning oxygen rich, so they were burning a lot more liquid oxygen than they normally do, and thus they literally burned through all of the liquid oxygen to the point where they shut down the engines a second early because there was no liquid oxygen left.
Oh wow!
And when the controllers realized this, it's one of them asked like, "Was that a LOX low-level cutoff?" And he says yes. And then you hear the exchange of like 3 different controllers going, "Yikes! You bet! Concur! We don't need any more of these." And that is the flight controllers realizing what had just happened and how close they got to potentially really affecting the mission.
Yeah, flight says yikes, main engine says you bet, then booster says concur,
And
then flight says we don't need any more of these. And
yes,
it's basically like a series of cascading failures that almost resulted in the shuttle not making orbit, and it would have been the only time they had to do any kind of abort type scenario, but they didn't. But it was the closest they ever got.
and he's short of orbit abort because there was an abort to orbit.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah,
and yeah, it's just sort of a legendary bit of spaceflight audio. I've thrown the link into chat a couple times. The link is timed to the actual exchange, but you should go and watch the whole video. It's an amazing video because it's classic NASA mission control controllers trying to figure out what's going on. I mean,
Yep.
it's an absolute classic. Go check that out when you get a chance.
And from Chris B in the chat here, Flight was John Shannon, former SSP manager, and now working for Boeing as the head of SLS.
Oh,
there you go.
People in chat saying there was an abort to orbit.
Yeah, there was one abort to orbit, so that was the only in-flight abort of the shuttle program. It was Space Shuttle Challenger. I'm gonna get the SCS number wrong, so I'm not gonna try it. But they lost an engine pretty late in the ascent, so they were down to 2 engines. That was the only in-flight engine failure for the RS-25 as well, and that resulted in an abort to orbit.
Chris in the back channel has the STS number for you.
Of course he does. STS-51F. Thank you,
There you
Chris
go.
G. That was the abort to orbit for Space Shuttle Challenger. But that is the only in-flight abort of the shuttle program. And of course was safe. They made it all the way to orbit. They still completed the mission. I forgot what the cause of that one was. I think we're going to have Chris G joining the broadcast in a little bit. And so people, if you have more shuttle questions, we're going to have a Chris on it, I think, in a little bit. He can answer those better than I can.
He says bad sensor.
He says a bad sensor. Thank you, Chris G.
Yeah, and quick side note. I think of all the things I've ranted on this on our streams about over the many hours, I don't think I've ever quite ranted about how much I hate the shuttle naming convention. 51F. That
Yeah,
tells
there's like
that tells
7
me nothing.
STS-51s.
Yeah, the way that they did it. If you ever look into it, I'm not going to even try and repeat because it's so Byzantine that I can't ever remember it, but it's like the year. There's like a fiscal year component, and a month was like a letter. Oh God, Chris G, get on here and we'll talk about the naming. But
He's
Chris
like,
G,
"Oh,
if
it's
you want to
the
join
start of the
comms,
name?"
it's
you
awful.
can.
do
It's
that?
just utterly. Yeah, join. Please join, and let's have a brief aside while we wait for Booster 4 to be lifted about how awful shuttle naming was. Maybe you disagree with me. I don't know, but I'm fired up about this.
All right,
But
well,
after
we got Chris.
Columbia, after
Opening.
STS-107 and Columbia, they kind of abandoned that naming scheme. They were just like, okay, we're just gonna put everything in numbered order from now on, and they like started with the number of like whatever, like because we know STS-135 was the last shuttle mission and was the 135th shuttle mission. So like at some point they just realigned the numbers to say, okay, this is the Xth shuttle mission. We're calling it STS-X, and we're just gonna go from there and stop making this so confusing.
Oh,
Chris
yes,
G,
but in the
welcome to the
process of doing
stream.
that, they made it more confusing. Yes. Oh yes, I can't. We started talking about the shuttle, and man, my head just like whip panned
drooling,
over
yeah.
to the like to the screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assistant Managing Editor of NASASpaceflight and resident shuttle encyclopedia, Chris Gibhart. Chris, let's
Yes.
talk shuttle a little bit because this booster hasn't moved yet.
Why
Yes,
naming bad? That's my question, Chris. Why naming bad?
Why naming bad? So there's a story that might be slightly apocryphal, but this is where it begins. So basically, they were going through, and they had the first round of missions that were STS-1 through STS-9, and they standard numerical sequence just like that. And then the potentially apocryphal story is that someone in NASA got concerned about the number 13 coming up, and that it was like a fear of the number 13. There's some that say that's true, there's some that say there isn't, but ultimately what the numbering scheme became is it was designed as a way to instantly identify where the vehicle launched from. So that you could look at the number and instantly go, oh, that launched from the Kennedy Space Center, or oh, that launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base, because the shuttles were supposed to launch from Vandenberg. So basically, the first number was the fiscal year number of the program that the mission was originally manifested to fly in.
I'm
So
just grinding. I'm grinding
Yeah.
my teeth right now, just like. "Arr." So
Oh,
if it
yeah.
was, so 51F. Let's break
Yep.
down 51F according to this. So that means
Yes.
it's the 5th fiscal year the shuttle has been active.
That the mission was planned to fly in. Yes. Yes.
That just makes me mad. All right, continue.
Yes. So that was what the first number was. So the second number was the launch site. So 1 was the Kennedy Space Center, and 2 would have been Vandenberg Air Force Base. So you could look at 51F and go, 1, it launched from the Kennedy Space Center in the 5th, and it was scheduled to go in the 5th fiscal year of the program. And then the dash letter was the alphanumeric sequence that it was originally set to go in that fiscal year from that launch site. So F, A, B, C, D, E, F. So F was originally the 6th flight of the 5th fiscal year from the Kennedy Space Center.
Thanks, I hate it.
I know, right? but that's what all the external numbering changed to. The Kennedy Space Center never changed their actual numerical sequence numbering. So the one I have to use for this is Challenger and STS-51L. Because according to documentation at the Kennedy Space Center, that was STS-33, not STS-51L. So when
But wait,
the
wasn't there
Challenger-
also an externally numbered STS-33?
Yes, because hang on.
Oh, jeez.
Because then
Oh, heads
When-
up. Booster's
yeah.
moving.
oh
The
good, the
booster's
booster's moving. So as this booster moves, yes.
I mean, it looks like it's rotated slightly. If I do an A/B test, yeah, it's definitely rotated. So it must be free of the mount, which is crazy because I can see a guy there at the very base of it. But it must be held by the crane right now.
Yeah,
And
look
it
at
is
that.
rotating. So it looks like we're moving into a lift here, which is exactly what we want to see.
All it took was a
all it
Chris
took
G
was me
shuttle
coming on to
tangent.
talk shuttle, exactly, and it was like, no, I must be the star of the show, and that's what gets it to lift. But anyway, just to finish that out really quickly, because Kennedy never changed their internal numbering system, so STS-51L Challenger was STS-33 to Kennedy. When the whole numbering scheme changed again after the Challenger disaster and reverted back to the numerical sequence, and since Challenger was the 25th flight, they just went back to STS-26 for the next one, but that created a Kennedy Space Center problem because now there were two STS-26s. And there would be two of STS numbers through 33, so internal KSC documentation refers to STS-26 through 33 as we know them as STS-26R for reflight through STS-33R for reflight. And that, my friends, is the shuttle numerical numbering scheme.
So what you're saying
And let
is
us-
when we
let us-
complain about SpaceX naming schemes, we should just keep in mind that it could be worse.
Yes, indeed.
And in the words of Homer Simpson, now let us never speak of it again.
Yes.
But yeah, the booster looks like it's going up. I mean, let's see. I'll do a little A/B test here.
Yeah, you can see the bottom end is definitely free because it's got that just a little bit
Oh.
of sway.
Lift is in progress. It is definitely going up. You can see more of the bottom of it now. We should get our eyes on Raptor engines here shortly. This is
Ooh,
going to
that's
be
true.
good.
Crane assisted takeoff confirmed.
All right. Well, while we let everybody's brain decompress from the shuttle naming catastrophe, don't forget if you have questions at NASASpaceflight in chat. That lets us see what your question, and we can look at it and answer it, and maybe cleanse our palates a bit.
Yeah, and fair warning: if you ask a shuttle question, you might spark a tangent. Like I don't even remember how we got on that topic. There was a question regarding shuttle.
Well, I don't know. I came into it when you were talking about STS-93 and the ascent to orbit.
That's what it was. Yes.
Which was an incredibly complicated thing, yeah, because the only other thing in your explanation there, Thomas, is that there was also a hydrogen leak out of one of the main engines when a pin broke loose at engine start, and it was this very weird, like the hydrogen leak should have gotten them, the oxygen usage should have gotten them because it was completely unrelated to the hydrogen leak, but somehow two things that should have been catastrophic canceled each other out with only like a 15 foot per second underspeed when they reached orbit. Like, how that got to orbit, I'll never know. Anyway, Starship is being lifted. Let's get back to Starship.
Yes,
Honestly,
super
no,
heavy booster
I feel like
four.
I feel like that was a good dose of shuttle, though. I mean,
Yeah.
for NASA spaceflight fans, you're gonna have to learn to love the shuttle if you don't already. But yeah, booster 4 getting lifted onto the orbital launch mount. Look at that. I mean, second time for this. It's interesting that they keep, they've taken it back and they're bringing it back now. It's not often that we've seen that. I mean, I think other than Ship 20, have they brought any other thing back to the launch site? From normally when things go back to their production site, they get scrapped.
Yeah, I think
Off the
this
top
is.
of my head, no. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything else has only made one trip to the launch site.
So yeah, and of course, this is all in service of the orbital launch attempt, whenever that ends up being able to happen, pending FAA and environmental review and all of that stuff. But yeah, it's exciting to see that we're making steps towards orbital flight, even if maybe it's going to be this year or not. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to fly?
We
this
actually
year?
have some relevant questions in super chats if we want to tie those in really quick.
Go for it.
Because we do have one from Austin with a super chat. Thank you for the support. In your opinions, will the first flight be completely successful? And if not, where does it fail? Kind of worth a timeline into this as well, as far as when this might occur. But what are your guys' predictions?
I'd say end of the year is probably realistic, because of the environmental reviews that are still out and pending, and after those are done, then FAA approval probably won't take too much longer than that. But just given the fact that it's September 8th, and that environmental review is 60 days for like the 30-day comment period and the 30-day review period. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not seen that that has started yet. So that would sort of automatically already put us at what, November at the earliest, just for the environmental impact assessment. So I'd say end of the year at the earliest would be my educated guess on that one.
I'm still kind of feeling 2022. I think I'm just really pessimistic about how long the regulatory stuff will take. Not that there's also isn't engineering work to be done, like there's still testing to be done and all that. For all I know, they could a cryoproof could destroy booster 4 and they'd have to do another one, like who knows. So there's a lot of things still that have to precede that flight, which is why I'm just like I have no confidence putting it anywhere near soon. I don't know, Jack, any thoughts?
Oh man, so many thoughts. I think, first off, I'll answer the second question first. Where does it fail? I think probably re-entry would be my guess, just because that's so complicated with the hinging on the flaps and all of that. As for timing, yeah, end of the year. I'm just gonna agree with that. Who knows? I want to know what Michael thinks. I'm putting him on the spot.
I'm watching his mute icon to see
I
if
know,
he can
right?
go away.
He might not say anything. What do you think, Michael?
I think something will go wrong. Either Raptors will fail an ascent and it won't be the intended velocity, or something will happen that won't be quite right. It's the first flight, so something won't go perfectly, but as to how much it fails is hard to say. I could see it running, I could see it being a partial success, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I totally did skip that second part, didn't I, in my answer? Yeah, I mean, the amount of time that those Raptors have to run, I know they're testing them. The first stage engines would burn for about 3 minutes if they all stayed running. And then the others would have to take over to get it to orbit. So I don't know. That's a pretty long burn on those other Raptor engines, to get into orbit. So I don't know. Yeah, a Raptor issue during launch would be my guess. If there is. This is also SpaceX. I mean, this thing could perform astonishingly well beyond anyone's wildest imagination. But I think that the heart of the question, right, is getting to orbit on your very first attempt. I mean, we there was sort of like this calculation, right? And it's the shuttle did it, the Proton did it, and
Saturn V?
And the Saturn V did it. The Saturn V did it, and we were talking, but it was specifically about rockets that did it on the first attempt that did not have significant heritage hardware from before. So like Falcon Heavy doesn't count. Falcon 9 in this thing sort of didn't count because of the heritage it brought over from Falcon 1, although I think that might be a bit iffy. I think Falcon 9
Because
might
Merlin
be,
had heritage, so I think
Merlin
that counts
had
as a pretty
some.
significant beat.
True. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of ones that didn't have heritage from previous ones, it's Shuttle, Proton, and I know there's a third one. I know that Pegasus.
We're talking
Opel,
about Pegasus.
but Minutemen.
Right, so that's kind
Pegasus
of got
would be
heritage,
iffy,
but
yeah.
not really.
Yeah. What was the third one? It was Proton, Shuttle, and what other one did it on its first go with no real heritage?
I don't remember. I think the debate was whether Pegasus counts as a third.
Was whether Pegasus counted, yeah.
Yeah. But either way, and you can't really argue that Starship or Super Heavy has any heritage with the Falcon fleet, right? Like at all.
I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to.
Like,
I mean,
yeah,
are
maybe some flight
certain
software,
things,
but no
exactly.
hardware.
Exactly. I mean, the tanks are different structures. They use different propellants. The engines are different. I mean, maybe there were lessons learned from the Merlin. Oh, I mean, certainly there were lessons learned from Merlin and how their reusability factors into that. But yeah, I don't know. Unless SpaceX has really been hiding something, I don't consider Starship to have heritage to the Falcon fleet. in
Yeah,
the
me
same
neither.
way, in the same way that Falcon 9 sort of carried heritage from Falcon 1 in that regard.
Meanwhile, this
Look at
zoomed-in view
that.
from Nick. Look at the Raptors go.
That's a lot of Raptors.
My
29 to be
lord.
exact.
The thrust is 29.
It's not 3 for the first
It's
time.
no longer 3.
For the second time, I don't know.
Decidedly not 3. Wow.
Someone in chat with a very good thing about Rocket said it made it before, asking about Baran. The Energia booster launched before Baran. So no.
Did...
Oh, Ariane 1.
yeah.
That's the other one. Ariane 1
Oh,
is the
that's
other
what
one.
it
Is the third.
was.
Thank you. Ariane 1 is the other one. Yes.
Gotcha.
Anyway, back to 29 Raptors. Yes.
Yeah, oh my goodness. We've seen this before, so like this is still blowing my mind even though we've
It
literally seen
is.
them do this exact same thing before. Wow.
Well, I think what blows my mind on this one more than the other one is like I mean you could tell that some of the other ones either were there for like show, right? Like were there for fit checks and stuff like that, which Elon then confirmed as well. But these are the ones that if the static fire, these are the ones that would do a 29 static fire if they're. Oh man, I can't wait for that. That is just going to be incredible when they get to static firing this thing.
Besides just the engines, which yes, that's going to be incredible. I cannot wait. There's a lot of additional hardware on the side of this thing, on the aft section.
Too, yeah.
Oh, there's
It's
a good
really,
shot of it up in the air.
really good looking, and yeah, there you can see it's well above the mount. They kind of lift it slowly as they pull it off the mount because they're still taking the Raptors out of the inside of the mount itself, and then now that it's clear, they generally speed up and they'll lift it pretty rapidly. I think also the crane itself is going to need to track forward, so it's going to both rotate the booster and lift it, and also the crane itself is going to crawl forward so that it is directly over the mount, and then it's going to lower the booster into the mount. If I'm not mistaken, I always like to hedge because I'm just a guy. I could be wrong with some stuff. Don't ever take what I say as gospel, but I'm pretty sure that's the procedure we're going to see here. Hopefully this camera angle will keep this robot, I think anyways, I'm going to say this out loud. I think we should keep this robot exactly the same right now, and we'll just let a time-lapse roll, and we can get the whole process. Because it's so cool to see the crane itself move. That's the thing, is it's not a fixed tower crane, it's a crawler crane. It's on those big, massive tank treads, and that's part of how it's utilized at the site, is it crawls around, and I don't know, it's just wild to see it lifting something that weighs hundreds of tons, right?
I was going to say, isn't it like 180 tons or something like that? Is the booster? Yeah.
Thank you. It's insane. This is insane what we are watching right now. This is some serious heavy lifting, and it's just super, super cool to see.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, our minds think very similarly, Jack, because when you were saying that, like, that to me is one of the most impressive things about this lift. Isn't that the crane just rotates over, right? It's that it crawls holding a 180 metric ton thing. It just like it's another one of those things where it's like, that looks like it shouldn't work, but man, when you can balance something properly, isn't physics beautiful?
Yep.
I mean, I'm hopefully this isn't too cheesy, but like I grew up watching TV shows like Modern Marvels, and it'll be like, this is the building of the Panama Canal, and it's like shows like this Herculean effort with thousands of workers building a piece of infrastructure or what have you. And I mean, that's in a lot of ways we're watching a modern marvel right now in front of our eyes. That's
Speaking of modern marvels, look at all those engines. My goodness.
Yes.
You
it's
must have
wild.
watched that show Dirty Jobs too with Micro, right?
Yes,
Yep,
so
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, when he did the crawler transporters at the Kennedy Space Center, like that was amazing. When they actually like acknowledged the space program in that show, like it would be fascinating to be here, where it's like it's not a dirty job, at this spaceport anymore. It's man,
It's a dusty job. Boca Chica is
it's
very
a
dusty.
dusty job, exactly.
Look at
really
that.
quick,
It's
I'm
just
gonna
swaying
take
in the
a
wind.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to take a really quick opportunity. I'm going to bow out for now. We're rotating in Mr. Chris G and joining commentary alongside Derek and Jack. So, Thomas Parker, I'm going to sign off for now. We'll continue the live coverage of the Booster 4 lift. And look at these just awesome views from Nick out there in the field. But I'll talk to you all guys later.
Have a good day,
Oh
Thomas.
man, well, yes, Thomas, thank you, and good luck for the rest of the day too. And oh man, Jack, we're being left alone on a stream with Derek to moderate us. So DK, good
I'll do my
luck.
best.
That's just like
do my best.
wrangling squirrels.
Yeah, it's basically it's going to be 2 kids with a whole bunch of pixie sticks, which is the shuttle.
Yeah.
And you're going to need to make sure you hide all the pixie sticks, or at
Oh,
least
my
stop
goodness.
us from consuming them all at once.
Well,
Yes.
right quick, let's go through some super chats here. Wayne Farmer with a $10 super chat a little while ago now. Thank you very much, Wayne. Martin Wolf with $8 Australian. Thank you very much. He's talking about, I don't think that they could hold vacuum in between. We're talking about the GSE tanks. You need a lot of strength at that size for that. We were talking earlier about the GSE tanks and their covers and what's in between the GSE tanks themselves and those cryo shells. Can you speak to any further to what we had? I don't know if you were listening in at the time, Chris.
I admittedly was not. I was on the phone.
Oh, fair enough, no worries.
I,
Yeah.
I did
I
see
think
that
we said
pop up
near
in
vacuum.
chat. A couple different people had said, you know, the shells aren't strong enough to maintain a vacuum. So yeah, maybe like you said, Derek, it's a near vacuum.
Near vacuum, yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I'm not quite sure there, but surely.
Yeah, if that's what was said, like near vacuum and stuff like that, and some use of liquid nitrogen as well, or gaseous nitrogen as well to keep the environment. Yeah, I mean that's my understanding of how cryogenic storage facilities like this work. That there is a near vacuum or a total vacuum if they're built to withstand that helps with the that helps maintain cryo margins in the tank. So I wouldn't have anything else to add to that. No.
Michael Baylor in the back channel here is saying nitrogen, not vacuum.
Oh, so these are nitrogen, not vacuum. Okay, gotcha. Yes.
I'm just mesmerized right now by these Raptor engines. This is insane. Look at the human for scale too. It's perfect.
Yeah, right.
It really is. Look at that.
Are we seeing the result of the crane tracking forward right now in the booster moving left in the frame? I think that's what we're. Maybe it's rotation. I'm not sure.
It's one of the two. Yeah. Oh man.
And you can see someone climbing the
Going up, too, a
scaffolding.
little
That's
Just like casually.
That's wild.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'll just climb into these Raptor engines.
Yeah. We have from CAMP Railroad. I like it. So I'm still confused. Can I get a web seminar about the naming and numbering of shuttle? We might have to.
I'm available for private seminars on shuttle naming systems. However, because of the technicality, it does cost quite a bit per hour.
From the back channels, Nick is saying that it is actually rotating. The tracks are not moving presently.
There we go.
Okay. More and more people coming up to assist with the wrestling it into position here. This is going to be the other thing. It's going to be fascinating to go back and compare how they got it onto the stand the first time.
Absolutely.
And how they're going to do it now. Because remember, Jack and DK, like when we were on here, and like it looked like there were like, I mean, because the Raptors weren't the real ones, or like some of them weren't the real ones, right? Like we saw some of the straps around some of the plumbing of the Raptor, so it'll be interesting to see how some of those processes may have changed in the now that it's flight sets that are on there.
It's interesting that the taglines are slack right now. I think the last time they lifted it, if I'm not mistaken, they had the taglines like connected to telehandlers. Like they were using significant force to steady the booster. I don't know, maybe it was just windier that day, or
could be.
Or maybe they're just slack right now as they lift it up and get these guys on the pad to prepare to grab those lines. But that's what they'll use, those green lines, to wrestle it into place. And like you said, Chris, we saw those kind of entwined with the Raptors last time. I wonder if if that can happen again. But at the same time, I'm not too worried about something like that, because these are incredibly strong engines, because they have to transfer the thrust of themselves into the structure of the vehicle. I don't think. I mean, I guess I could see it getting wrapped around a little pipe or something and that causing
Yeah.
a problem. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I do wonder if in the future or soon or what we'll see a sort of a skirt structure or like a flared base or something that covers up what we're looking at right now, or part of it anyways. It just doesn't seem
Well,
like
with how it attached last time, it seemed that it would sort of preclude the ability to have any sort of skirt.
yeah.
It
'Cause it
does,
attached
yeah,
right
from
there.
how
Yeah.
they just sort of rest on that bottom lip there. Yeah.
Exactly, which seems sort of strange. I don't know how to best word it. That was not where I was expecting it to mount from.
Part of what is interesting to me about this whole mounting and cover sort of situation is that on Falcon 9 and on I think if not all most rockets, you see like I think on Falcon 9 anyways, it's called a boot. It's like the enclosure that covers the engine.
Hmm.
It's like a flexible. I don't know, Chris. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's the thing that burned through on one of the recent Falcon 9 flights and caused an issue on reentry.
Yeah.
It's basically like a cover for the engines. That's not like a hard metal
Yeah,
structure.
it like seals the gaps in the octaweb structure
Yeah.
to protect the internals, all the plumbing and everything, as the Raptors are retro, not the Raptors, as the Merlins are retrofiring,
Yeah,
right,
I could.
during everything.
Yeah, and the booster is going to retrofire, and so I could see them needing some sort of boot type thing for the engines, and so maybe that's what we see instead of like a full-on skirt. It just has 29 boots on there,
So let's
or
play devil's
something
advocate.
like that. Go ahead.
So let's play devil's advocate here, because while Starship Series SN8 through 15 and the ones that flew in that program, I mean, they had the skirt because Starship itself has the skirt, right? And like that's where the landing legs were attached for those particular test flights, and obviously the ship portion of Starship will have to have a portion of the skirt to form the inner stage of the vehicle. Um, but they didn't put shrouds around the engines. Aside from that, it was just that skirt extension that stuck down as it naturally would on the vehicle itself. So playing devil's advocate here, do they need it? If there's nothing up, if there's nothing further up your vehicle, right, that you're super worried about coming off and impacting and damaging an engine, or if you have, if you have the capability to handle, I can't remember exactly. I don't think Elon has really said definitively what the engine out capability is for the booster. But just that there is engine out capability right off the pad. So I don't know. Do they need it based on what we've seen from the other rounds of testing?
Yeah, good question. I'm just mesmerized by these things right now.
So,
Gosh, I know.
do we know yet? Have all of these been now test fired? Because previously we had some pretty clean engine bells. I'm noticing some that are maybe a little bit different.
I'm noticing some that are pretty clean too, DK. Yeah, look
Yeah,
at that.
interesting.
Maybe this could be a case too where maybe the engine bell was replaced after
Sure.
after a test firing. But I don't know. I mean, this is SpaceX, right? They have acceptance testing. They have programs. I can't speak to the nitty gritty technicality of anything, but I mean, in a test campaign, I don't know. I mean, I would think you'd want to fire them before you put them on a vehicle just to make sure. But
Certainly before the vehicle's going to be fired.
yeah, but I mean, it's not. Yeah, but I mean, so that's why I'm saying, like, maybe nozzles got replaced afterward, or things like that, right? There could be a variety of reasons why some nozzles look cleaner than others. I think when you look at how they're all mounted now, you can tell they're all mounted the same way now. And if you think back to that other to B4 when they rolled it out the previous time, right? Like not all the serial numbers were necessarily facing out, and although the engines were necessarily mounted in the same direction and everything, because they were just for the overall fit checks.
Yeah, it's looking like now every single little spray painted RB number on there has been sort of facing outward. And that
Yeah.
was not the case the first time that we saw this lift.
And you can see it continuing to go over there, and you can see what I love about this shot too is you can see the newer additions to the tower as well
Absolutely, yeah.
that are up there.
Yeah, you can see the QD arm sitting up there. It's got to be an added complexity to this lift versus the last one for the crane operators. But they seem to be taking it in stride, and it's no issue. It's already
If
nearly
anything,
directly above the pad. Go for it, DK.
yeah. If anything, that almost seems like this one has been going a little easier.
Yep, I would
Like
agree
you're
with
saying,
that.
that previously they had people on those taglines. Those taglines are those what looks like green ropes. They're not actually rope, but that people would use just to make sure that it's going exactly where it needs to be. Literally, just someone like pulling on it.
Yep, and which we're about to see.
And I'm sure they'll get men on it right in a minute here.
I feel like we need oh man, I don't know what classical music, what song it is. Is it like Blue Danny Waltz or something? Like we need
Well,
like
yeah.
oh man, like 2001 vibes.
Yeah,
Right?
Just
like
slowly.
super dramatic music, but for like something that's happening really slowly. Yeah.
Ba-da, bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
No, exactly. Where it's just, gosh, is this fantastic to actually be able to witness.
Oh
Yep.
man.
Many thanks to Nick out in the field right now, getting us that camera angle.
Yes, indeed. I mean, because this is like this has got to be like, I mean, imagine back in 1960 in 1967 when the Saturn V went out, not 67, 1964 when the first Saturn V rolled out on Apollo 4 and everything. I mean, just what that must have looked like back then. For what that program was ultimately able to achieve. This has got to be the modern day equivalent of
Look at
that.
that. They're grabbing the
Yep,
I mean,
they're getting on those
you're right.
taglines.
You're right, Chris, and I think that's why we're all so interested in this program and in the progress in Boca Chica is because we recognize it for what it is, which is a huge step and another one of these types of milestones.
1967, I had it right correct the first time, and I should not have second guessed myself. 1967, when Apollo 4 rolled out.
All right, so they're grabbing the lines. It must just be no wind today. They're just like leisurely hanging out. The boosters. I mean, this
I mean,
seems.
the lines aren't even moving. Yeah, like
Yeah.
This seems way more casual than the previous lift. I don't know. Maybe I'm just projecting here.
Which
I mean,
kind
they've done
of
it
is
before.
nice for them to demonstrate how they can lift in different wind conditions too. That it doesn't have to be just totally calm for them to lift this massive thing into the
Yeah,
air.
and that's certainly true. It is worth noting that they did wait until today as opposed to having it lifted yesterday. Yesterday, the booster was already connected. We thought perhaps there was going to be a lift, but it ended up not happening yesterday at all, and started this morning.
Fair enough. Someone asking, is that Sam Patel there on the left? That's like the manager of the entire Starship program and site down in Boca Chica, I think, right? I forget what his exact title is, but we saw him in the Everyday Astronaut site tour, an Elon interview that he recently did. It kind of looked like Sam. I don't know if it is or not. I feel like he has a red hard hat. I don't think I see a red hard hat up there, but maybe he has different hard hats.
Could be. "29 engines is many." It's just
Yes,
sort of
it
remarkable.
is.
Every time I look at them, I'm just like, that is so many.
Yeah,
And there will be more.
They're gonna
Yes.
somehow figure out a way to stuff even more in there to get 33 total, which is just insane. It's like it doesn't look like there's room. Like, how do you
I
fit?
know.
It just doesn't make sense.
One of the
No,
things that
I'm with you on that, but I mean, man, they've got to, I mean, like for the amount that's going to be able to lift and like the performance increases, I mean, it's not an inconsequential number of engines, and I mean, I love the historical element of it too. That if they do add those and they get it to 33, it's the rocket with the most engines on the first stage that's ever flown at that point.
Yeah. What's really interesting to see in the view that we have right now too is we have all those outer rings that we can see the numbers of, those are all statically mounted, right? And then that inner ring actually all have a gimbal for thrust vectoring, so they're able to sort of change the direction where they're thrusting and steer the ship.
Yeah.
And they're sort of just hanging limp right now, but they will be able to be gimbaled to move.
Yeah, and that's part of the consideration of how they're mounted versus the outer ones. They need room to do that, and that's also what makes it so crazy that they're going to try and jam 33 in there, because they still need some engines to gimbal, whether or not it remains the center ones or what. But or how much they can gimbal. You know, maybe they make them gimbal less. I forget how all that's going to work out, but it's, I mean, it's a lot of engines, like you said, DK.
It's so many.
And
So-
not only is it a lot of engines, it's a lot of perhaps one of the most complex engines ever
Yeah.
built. I mean, it's a full flow staged combustion engine, which is extremely unique and rare and high efficiency, but also highly complex. And they're banking on being able to fire 29 and then eventually 33 of these extremely insanely complex engines precisely enough and simultaneously enough and reliably enough to fly these things repeatedly.
And speaking of
With, like,
reliability,
2
so-
hours of turnaround.
Yeah.
right. And speaking of reliability, that's one of the things that just sort of having so many engines, I guess, gives you. Is it gives you that redundancy. If an engine fails, you're going to be more or less fine because you
Yeah,
have
that's true.
28 more. And we've seen just recently, very recently, with engine failure on was it Firefly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Astro. Yeah.
engine out, yeah, and Astra engine out
Yeah, and
capability
Astra.
is extremely important. I mean, Falcon 9 has engine out. I know Shuttle and Saturn, I think, also had engine out capability to a certain extent, whether it was an abort or what. But you know, launch remains safe even in the event of engine failure. But I guess it does sort of also depend on what type of failure that engine experiences. I think SN11 experienced an engine failure that resulted in the thing rutting. I mean, we didn't get to see anything because of the darn fog, but
Yeah.
Au contraire, you saw pieces go flying by the camera.
we saw
like-
almost nothing. Let me repeat
Yeah.
that. I
There
mean,
you
for
go.
me, I was at Isla Blanca Park. I didn't see anything. I just saw fog and water on all my gear and was sad.
So in other
Um,
words, you felt right at home at Vandenberg.
Yeah, right.
Boy, is this swaying an awful lot. Is that just them?
Wind or the crane is
Boy, is
still
it making
like
me real nervous.
getting it. Yeah.
Ooh.
But yeah, no, I mean it's interesting because some rockets and I think when we say engine out capability, there's 2 points to that, and I think that's good to sort of mention. There's the sort of engine out capability I think that you were talking about in some regards, Jack, right? Where like we saw with Firefly and Astra, and that the Saturn V and the shuttle had to an extent, right? Which is if you lost a liquid engine coming off the pad, for the shuttle, you absolutely were not getting to orbit if you lost an engine that early into flight, but you still had some abort options to your capability there. If you only lost one, the Saturn would have aborted 2 on that first stage early on in flight. And then you saw, but you can also see, like from Firefly and Astra's perspective, hey, if you lose an engine and you still got a thrust to weight ratio that's at least 1, you can at least potentially clear the launch pad. And that's important, right? Like if you can clear, did a bird just land on the engine on the right-hand side of the, I swear a bird just landed on one of the Raptor engines.
I'm going back to look.
On the right-hand side there.
I'm going to look.
Okay. It was like right when I said it too. But anyway, there's that type of engine out capability, right, where it's not an immediate loss of the vehicle, but maybe you still can't make it to orbit, but it gives you some options to protect your ground assets potentially, or to get farther, to get downrange. But then you have the engine out capability that we're talking about with Falcon 9s and with Starship and with Falcon Heavy, where they can actually, right at the moment that the clamps release them at T0, the Falcon 9 can lose 2 engines. And what you've sacrificed in that moment, depending on what the mission priority is, if it's a mission where you were going to get the booster back, the remaining engines just continue to burn longer. And as long as the payload mass is correct, you can actually lose 2 engines on the Falcon 9 coming off the launch pad and still complete the primary mission. And maybe you sacrifice getting the booster back, but you've still completed the mission. And the starships that will have engine out capability as well at liftoff. So just good to clarify that those two like tracks of what we mean by engine out capability of the vehicles.
The thing is, though, is like on Falcon 9, for example.
Oh, they're lowering it, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
But
yeah,
on
it's
Falcon
slowing
9, on Falcon 9, for example. Sorry, Jack. Yeah.
No, you're good. They have the octaweb, so if an engine fails catastrophically, the other engines are shielded from the one that fails catastrophically.
Right.
I don't think there's a way for them to make that kind of structure here on the booster.
Yeah.
So
not-
if one of these engines
quite
fails
enough room.
catastrophically, it's going to take out other engines and,
Yeah.
and perhaps the whole vehicle. But maybe
Which-
who knows how the design will evolve over time?
Right.
Maybe there's some sort of structure that ends up doing that, or maybe the Raptor is just reliable enough that that's not a concern. But
It
I
could be
just wanted to throw that in
the-
there.
The next version will have sort of different sized bells, or it could be any number of things. This is Raptor V1 yet, right?
Well, and I think Elon's talked about like the Raptor version 2s are
Mhm.
are already far more simpler
Yeah.
than these are. And I think that's the goal, honestly. I really do think that's the goal, just like the RS-25, the shuttle main engine. Right, like Jack, like you were talking about, like if a Merlin would have failed catastrophically, right, there are things in place to prevent that from becoming a zipper-like effect on all the others around it, right? But it's worth pointing out that on the Saturn V and on the shuttle that didn't exist. If an engine would have gone like that on one of those vehicles, it very likely would have taken out the others around it. As well. So what the goal was, especially on the space shuttle side of that, more than the Saturn V, but on the shuttle side of it, it was simply to make it so that they were so reliable that wouldn't occur.
Yep.
So yeah, I can definitely see them going that route of it's the reliability. Like they just won't fail that way, or like if they do, it's very, very rare for them to do so.
Yeah, sure enough. Man, I feel like they didn't even have to muscle it into place at all. Like they didn't.
No.
They're
Went
just
down easy.
they're just hanging out and grabbing the lines now as it gets nearly onto the mount. This is really I wonder if that's all up to wind. And we've got Nick in the back channel saying he never saw the crane track forward, so I must have been wrong about that. They must have just rotated it into place, which is super neat.
Maybe too. It had because I remember it moving forward on the last one, Jack. Like definitely, I like I'm with you on that. I have the memory of that. So maybe it was just like because of all the other things they were building there at the time. Maybe they couldn't position the crane exactly where they needed it to, so it had to roll forward a little bit for the previous
That
one.
could be. I'm still super dazzled by all the interesting new stuff that they've installed on the exterior of the vehicle. It looks
I know.
super, super cool, and I just can't help but wondering. We were talking about it earlier, what that sort of area is going to look like going forward. If it's going to have covers, or what? If some of that stuff might be moved internal. Here we go. We can see it get closer and closer to the mount itself. Look at that. They're rotating it into place. What do you think those
I was
white
just going to ask
stripes
on
are?
R7? RB7?
Yeah, on
I
RB7.
don't know. Yeah.
Some kind of instrumentation, perhaps?
Well, it almost looks like, am I seeing like a crease in the bell or something?
On which one?
There's
There's a lot of
RB7.
shadow.
Is it just a shadow? It could be.
No, it's tape. The crease.
Like
could
in
be
between
shadow.
it, there's like a.
Yeah, huh. I like how some of the numbers are just kind of haphazard. Some are really clean. Like 25 is like RB25.
This is just a little saggy.
Yeah, RB26 is like RB26. Like they all kind of have their own personality.
I wish we had a better sense of sort of the orientation that the vehicle needs to be in for the mounting. Like, I don't. They're obviously trying to get it set exactly.
Yeah, if sometimes when you get a real close up, you can see like the writing on the booster that says like +Z or -Z. It's like
Like
they
this side
have the
down. Yeah.
yeah, they have like the coordinate system that they use, but it's kind of hard to tell. You know, with Starship, you have the fins to sort of
Yeah.
orient you with the vehicle and say, okay, this is the backside, the backside of the leeward side, this is the windward side, and we know this is how they mount. I guess
So
if we could see the where the quick disconnect attaches to
I
the
was
booster, that might
just
be a
gonna
good
say
indicator.
that. So if the previous lift and mounting of Booster 4 to the orbital launch mount was to stack Ship 20 on it, is this one perhaps to check for the alignment of the quick disconnect arm?
Could be.
You know
That
what I'm
might be
saying?
something they do with it. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or because, I mean, if we're looking at potentially engine bells that haven't been fired, test fired yet, it's interesting to think what they are putting it up there for.
Yeah, good point. You can see that quick disconnect right there on the right.
Yeah. That was not there last time.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Nor was a
Yeah,
lot of
you
that
can. It's
stuff
very
on the outside of
prominently
the
sticking
booster.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, TK.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I don't feel that sort of structure in between the COPVs. Was that there previously?
I don't
don't-
remember it
I don't
being there,
remember it
no.
either. Like,
I
but I
don't
don't
think
remember
so.
them working on Booster 4. Like, I don't remember seeing it until just now.
I don't think so, but
I don't
I could be mistaken.
Do we know what that is, or have any sort of guesses?
I have no idea. I wish I did know.
Yeah, same.
Chad, if you know, at me. I'm looking at
Yeah.
you.
Get that.
If you're having
yeah,
issues
if
with
you
your
are-
stream, refresh. I see a lot of people in chat.
Ah.
Someone says turbo encabulator. That's great. Look at all those Novatronians.
Yeah. But man, for the 16,000 of you who are watching with us, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who joined in the last few minutes, we're watching Booster 4 being lifted onto the orbital launch mount at Starbase with 27 flight Raptor engines. Ah, that's so exciting to say. But Booster 4 is being installed onto its launch mount for a series of tests and checkouts that are designed to put the vehicle through its paces, verify some ground systems, verify new equipment that's at the pad, and get ready and keep marching toward that first orbital flight attempt. If all goes to the current plan that's been discussed, this is the booster that will make that attempt, with Ship 20 that is sitting off screen here, but is also at the orbital launch site itself. So yeah, this is a very, very, very exciting day. So yes, so the 16,000 of you who are watching, thank you so much for watching with us, and thanks to all of our members and everyone for all of the support as well. Thank you so much as we cross 11 a.m. Central Time here. And Jack, I know we've talked about this a little bit more, but probably worth reiterating for everyone who's just joined us. I may have just said 27 Raptor engines. It should be
Chat's
29. Yes, sorry. I had
waiting
a
for you. You're
momentary Falcon 9 mental blip there, Falcon Heavy mental blip there. 29 Raptors on this one. But yeah, worth reiterating how much quicker this has gone and how very smooth all the movements have been on getting this booster into position. Very little wind that they're contending with at Starbase today for this operation. So really, really good for the teams that are on the ground. But
Yeah, this is a very looks to be a very leisurely lift, despite obviously it's very serious work. But last time we saw them really wrangling the booster with those taglines, and this does not appear to be the case on this one.
It looks like it's going way smoother.
One thing I am noticing on the orbital launch mount side is look at those little panels with all the valves and stuff.
Yeah.
Like on the bottom right,
Oh, yeah,
sort
yeah.
of
I was not there last time either.
and there's a whole bunch of plumbing there under the scaffolding, and of course the quick disconnect there, which I wonder if there's additional pieces to that we haven't seen yet. If it gets its own little arm or like lever type deal. I'm curious. Oh, and look, we're getting to zoom
There
in
you
on
go.
those panels. Nice.
Thank you, Nick. Interesting.
Very cool.
It's interesting that
Yeah.
how exposed it all is at this point.
Yeah, there's got to be some shielding on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, I think what we're seeing is they're doing a lot. Like there's another panel that's going to go over all of that. Like we're seeing like the inside of like closets on the outside of
Yeah.
the ring, if that
Yeah,
makes
you can
sense.
see on the
Yeah.
left there, those two steel boxes.
Oh, there we
I'm
go,
Sure,
yes.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll
Yeah.
get some kind of cover like that. Look at that. It's almost down.
Oh, look at that.
One thing I'm struck by also is the COPV arrangements and just all of the wire routing in general. Like it just looks very clean. On some previous prototypes, we've sort of seen that stuff kind of look a little bit more messy, and on this, it's just almost classic rocket satisfying. You know, when you see a
very
picture
good
of
cable
a-
management.
Exactly. It just looks very, very good. Which is good to see. You know, if this thing's gonna make an orbital attempt, it needs to be in ship shape, or maybe perhaps booster shape. Oh god, I hate myself. Look at that. Let's see if we can catch one of them doing a hand signal for when it's down.
Yeah.
I wonder if they use
Oh,
walkies
yeah.
or hand signals or what.
And last time, particularly with the full stack, we had lots of drones, and there was a camera guy there. And this time, it looks to be a little more business as usual. Even I don't see anybody there documenting. Just mounting the booster onto the orbital launch mount, casual.
First time is news and a novelty in history. Second
Yeah.
time is routine. At least that's what we hope, right?
Oh, seriously,
Yeah, we'd like for it
right?
to continue to be routine.
All right, I'm watching. I'm watching for an indication from the crew here. Imagine this being your job, to stand on this mount right now. What a wild job. Nick saying there's been some drones today, but no camera crews.
Which
Copy.
makes sense for today.
Yeah, remember last
Yeah.
time we saw the guy with the easy rig? It's like that. It looks like an arm that goes up above your head. It's like a backpack with an arm, like a big
And those
coat
things are-
hanger looking arm.
Great.
They're great. They are. I know some people do hate them, but I think it's like a kind of a.
Well, you
love
hate them after 10 hours. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. But yeah, that's like a reverse steady cam.
Yeah, yeah, good way to put it. Yeah.
Look at that.
Wow. It's still moving just a little bit. It's
Jack was talking about what it would be like to be one of the crew here working on this, and I wonder sort of how they are feeling, because I feel nervous for them, but I wonder if it's just like, all right, yep, just bring the booster down, casual, or if it's a little more sort of heightened.
I feel like them,
Oh, yeah,
like having experience done. Oh, look at that. We got
yeah,
a wave.
a wave, but I think that might have been a come on up. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's what it looked like. So it must
Yeah.
be down. It must be down.
It's still moving. Nah.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah. It's like they're
Uh,
rotating it, like trying to get it into the final correct rotation to do the final lower.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's still rotating a bit to the it's still rotating counterclockwise just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, what I was gonna say is since they do this as their job and they know way more about what's occurring than we necessarily know. I feel like they're their confidence level and the confidence level will be higher, and the amount of anxiety or nervousness that they would have would be lower. But surely there's some amount of trepidation on the parts of the crews. You don't want something to go wrong. You don't want anybody to get hurt. You don't want any damage to occur to the mount or the booster itself. But I mean, they're extremely well-trained professionals. That's why they have the job that they have. So
Absolutely.
I would expect that they're fairly confident. But that's just my gut. Look at the crews just going around on the scaffolding. I wonder what that check was. That was interesting.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
They went over and looked at some of the plumbing or something. Huh.
And it's still, I don't think it's rotating anymore, but I think it's just hanging there and just kind of.
So
yeah, it does.
It's still definitely rolling back and moving back and forth.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, it looks like it's sort of swaying back and forth a little bit still. Good point.
Speaking of new structures, and we were talking about the between the COPVs there, all that piping and whatnot. To the right, we now see that structure that looks like it would probably go to the quick disconnector.
Yeah, so that's what I was wondering. Like that's
Yeah.
got to be the fueling port
Mhm.
for the base of it, right?
I don't think we saw that last time.
No, that wasn't there last time. But it does, at least from this vantage point. I mean, I'll hedge a little bit just to say, like, it looks like it could be an alignment, but that might be a perspective trick of where
Yeah,
the
but that's
camera
absolutely
is. So I'll
Mhm.
hedge a little bit in saying that, but I mean, it definitely looks like it would be like the correct height to serve as a quick disconnect for fueling operations. Yeah.
This is just so cool.
Definitely still moving.
Oh yeah, you can see it
Yeah.
swaying there.
Yeah. Well, it looks like so on the right there we've got a guy with like I don't know, is it just a ratchet strap at this scale? Sort of tightening it down a little bit as it's coming in.
Which we saw them do on the previous one as well.
Yes. So a little while from Leopold Bonvalet, they're asking if we think that this is the last time Booster 4 is going to be lifted onto the launch mount.
That very well might be their goal.
It could be, yeah.
But the next time it leaves under its own power. Yeah.
Here's the thing. We've seen them building booster thrust simulator hardware.
Mhm.
And I don't know why they would go to the trouble to build that hardware, that test hardware, and not cryo proof test with thrust rams a booster in the same way that we've seen them do it for Starships, just with different hardware, of course, because the booster has 29 engines and Starship has the 6. And we've only seen a 3-engine hydraulic thrust ram setup so far. They've built a 6-engine on pad B and they took that down, but point being, they've been building one for Super Heavy, but you can't do that test with engines installed. And I don't think you can do that test on this mount. I think that those structures we've been seeing built are their own thing. It's its own structure, which will go adjacent to this pad or just somewhere else in the launch site. I don't even think that those are part of adapting one of the suborbital pads, although it could be. I could be mistaken there. But all this is to say, they have booster thrust simulator hardware. And oh, look at that guy going to the cooler for a tasty beverage.
Yeah.
Stay hydrated, folks. It's hot out there.
So Jack,
yeah,
are you
all that is to
Yeah,
say,
go
they
ahead.
have engines on this thing right now, and they can't do that test that we've seen them building hardware for with the engines installed on this booster. So I'm even wondering, not if this is the last time it's being lifted onto the orbital launch mount. I'm wondering if this is actually its flight set of engines, or if this is the last time they'll have all the engines installed, or if they'll install them again. I mean, I'm super curious how this testing flow is going to progress ahead of the orbital flight. There's so many different tests they could or might do. I'm sort of tantalized there, and Nick reporting that the crane operator is out of his cab. Thanks for that, Nick.
Okay.
So that would be a good indicator that it could be down. I don't see it swaying.
No, it's still swaying.
It's still swaying? Okay, my
Yeah.
bad.
A little bit.
It's still swaying.
Maybe he's having a chat or a break.
Yeah, it's still rotating around a little.
So
pretty
Jack,
significantly.
a quick question to that. So we've seen all the all like you said all the stuff being built for that, like to do the thrust tests like that. But it can't have engines when it does that, right? Or at least we haven't seen them have engines when they do those sorts of tests. Is it? I mean, so like on the flip side of what you were saying of like, is this the last time it's being lifted? Could these not even be the flight set of engines? Are there more tests for that? Have we seen any indication that they're building like a bottom test part of a booster, or that they might try to do it with one of like the BN tanks that didn't rupture?
Well, oh man, see now I'm realizing they did test the booster 2.1 tank with the thrust structure thing, but they've never done a full booster yet. Is I guess what I meant there.
Okay.
Which is obviously a lot more welds, but I guess you're right. They did do the BN 2.1 test tank as a booster thrust simulator sort of test. Or did they? I think they threw the thrust simulator on BN 2.1. It wasn't just a cryo-proof. It was actually a with the hydraulic rams. Anyways, yeah, to your point, Chris, they could fly 4 or maybe booster 5 is done before 4 flies, and they do the pressure test on 5 instead. I don't know. It's interesting to see how all of this will play out. And is it still swinging? It's not down yet, right? Yeah, I think
I'm
it's
still seeing it wobbling back and forth here a little bit.
Yep. Cool. So let's see here. We've got a lot of members coming in. I see a lot of members coming in. And our back end software where we get to read all those out is like having a glitch right now, I think. But we see you, new members.
Yeah, we think it's on the YouTube side here. I've been trying to figure it out. Where Michael's in the back trying to work it. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with it, but I haven't been able to sort of keep an eye on it as much as I have. But all the new members and people who are continuing their membership, thank you so much. Thank you guys very much for helping us keep the lights on, helping us bring these sort of streams to you. We can't do it without you.
Yeah,
and anybody else who's
seriously.
just watching, there's approaching nearly 16,000 now. And for anybody who's just joining us, we're watching Super Heavy Booster 4 being lifted onto the orbital launch mount. It's not quite down yet. It's got a little bit of wobble yet to it.
Yep.
They are working on it, trying to get it exactly. And when I'm watching them do this, one of the things that I think about is those the catch arms, the chopsticks, as Elon has now called them. How are they going to get them this down as precisely and quickly and automated, without really having crew there, as quickly as they want? That's very fascinating to me.
Good question. I mean, I almost wonder, like, would there be structures on the base of the booster that are sort of like metal wedges that kind of they can slot it into place easier, sort of thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But really quickly, I did want to say, back to thanking the members really quick.
Yeah.
Seriously, thank you, all members, and because it's you and I on the stream right now, Derek. We can just say, we are working on more stuff for the members.
Yeah.
Right?
I am very excited to. That's sort of something that I'm in charge of a little bit. Getting new membership perks happening. Can't really speak to exactly what they'll be yet. We're still trying to sort of figure out how to best implement everything.
Yep.
But we're going to be bringing a lot of new stuff for people, and I'm excited for it.
Yep, and just as the beginning of that, we've got some new emoji. So there's new member emoji. I'm gonna throw a star hopper in chat.
There you
I think
go.
this is the first live stream, or one of the first live streams since we've got those. Pauline did a great job on them, and yeah, booster not yet down, but I just wanted to thank the members for all their support and let you know there's new emoji if you haven't looked at that for a little while, and there's more cool stuff coming. But yeah, let's see. Do we want to do this thing? He says to everybody.
Which thing?
This. Hang on a second.
Look at all those new emotes. Those are great.
Yeah, I do.
So
love
many members.
seeing-
That's a lot of green names. Thank you guys so much. That's incredible. Where's the shuttle emoji?
That's actually the shuttle emoji is on a list.
It is, yeah. We've got a big list of emojis that we want to get going. Tell us more about this list. It's a matter of how quickly we can implement them. You will eventually see the fullness of the list as we get the emotes done. Just with everything, it just takes time.
Yeah, we have 30-something open spots, like including what we have right now. We have an additional 30-something emoji spots, and we have a list, and we're working on it. Yeah,
And so long as we're sort of speaking to that, if you have ideas for maybe emojis, I'm certainly open to hearing about them. If there's something that you wish we had an emoji for that we could then maybe add for you.
Yeah, so thanks to all of our members, and it's one of the ways you can support us. You can support us just by watching the streams, which we really appreciate. And of course, there is the merch store.
Okay,
which,
so
don't
Jack,
forget-
I think we can do the thing.
Oh, let's do the thing.
We're gonna do the thing. I'm excited to do the thing.
We have a new shirt,
It's
and
so
it's a really awesome shirt in collaboration with Raphael, who makes those amazing Starship graphics.
I want 7 of them.
Raphael Adame, I think is. I always
Mhm.
worry I'm going to mispronounce his last name, but let's see.
To show
let's see
it,
if we can,
or
yeah,
are we
show
going
it.
to
Yeah,
tease
this is
it
it.
first?
I mean,
Wait, we're
how
teasing
do
it
you
first?
how do you assemble a Starship? I don't know how
Well,
quite you
I
want to.
feel like I
Let's-
need some
let's-
kind of instructions, or maybe
There we go.
zoom in on
It's-
that. Look at it.
It's an IKEA-styled Starship assembly diagram shirt, and to say that I love this shirt is, I don't know, a dramatic understatement. It's an absolutely amazing shirt. It's beautiful, really, the line art there, but it is in the style of how to assemble it. Put nose cone on, put
My-
tab A in slot B.
Right. My favorite detail on this is the diacritical mark above the A on Starship. So
Starship.
it's the Starship. Goodness. So
So
good.
good. So darn good. Oh man. So yeah.
Someone's saying in chat, show it in black. I don't know, Michael, if you were able to click on that one for us quick. And this is the poster for it too.
Yeah, there's also a poster. It's a really cool graphic. Yeah, if you want to support what we do, we would really appreciate it if you'd hop on over to the store and grab a shirt. And I mean, I feel like some of our shirts are really esoteric. Like we've got the corridor shirt and all the ones like the DOS
Yeah, there's certainly
art
some that
shirts.
like you need to be like watching the streams pretty regularly to get it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put it in
whereas
chat here.
this I feel like your parents or something, you might even be like, oh hey, do you like is that the thing? Is that rocket Elon Musk is building, or like maybe like someone you're at the coffee shop with in line is like, hey, is that Elon Musk rocket thing? Or they might, if they're not too up on stuff, they might be like, hey, is that Jeff Bezos rocket thing? And you're like, no. Oh man. But seriously cool shirt there. Collaboration between Pauline and Raphael Adame, and yeah, they did absolutely fantastic work on that shirt. If you want to support us, if you have the money, we super appreciate a purchase there from the merch store.
Yeah, well, I mean, so we've got like the super chats and things like that, which are direct support, which is we can give our thanks, and that's what we can give, and we can continue to do these streams, and that's one of the things that we can do. But with that, you get to support NASA spaceflight, but then also have a physical object, which I think is great.
Yep, you get a thing back, a physical
Yes.
thing.
And for people who have been here a little while, I now have my sort of back-end panel where I'm able to read everything. So if you do at NASA Spaceflight, I will see your questions and we'll hopefully be able to get to them. But meanwhile, I'm now seeing members that I can thank. Brian Lee and PZ Tank, thank you very much for the new memberships. And anybody else that has come through, thank you. And I'm sorry that I missed the names because I didn't realize that the panel hadn't been working.
Yeah, I saw a couple Capcoms come through, and I think even higher than that. So thank you to all of our new members. If you are Capcom and above, you do get Discord access. So if you have any trouble with that, at me or at one of us,
Yeah.
and we'll help you get into the Discord there and enjoy our fun shenanigans.
And we're talking about the emote possibilities. If you are in that Discord and you happen to think of the emotes, you can @ me. And
Nice.
I will figure out. So just @ DK, and we'll put that on our list if it's something that we think could really be great.
Yeah, feel free to @ me about those too. I love
Yeah.
emoji. Everybody knows I love emoji. Hey, I'm gonna throw a concur in
Ooh,
chat.
I
'Cause
like
we
this.
have.
Hey,
Go ahead.
what was it? We need an emoji of Mary taking photos,
Oh,
or
that'd be a
just
cool one.
like a Mary emoji of some kind.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. We need more astronauts in general. I think we need some more humans.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of. I mean, the list is already long. I think we could fill 35 slots already, but it doesn't mean we can't like rotate some out, or who knows. But anyways, Booster 4, is it down? Is it still swaying?
I am still seeing quite a bit of sway.
All right.
A little less than previous. I think that they've sort of strapped it down a little bit, but it's still definitely some sway there. People are asking, how can I become a member? What a great question. So if you scroll down just a little bit below the video feed, you're going to see a subscribe button, which I'm assuming you've already hit. And then there's also that join button. If you click that join button, you'll be sent to a page where you'll be able to have just a little bit more information. You'll see the different levels that you're able to support on, and then some of the different emojis that we have in there as well, and all the perks. And again, we're working on adding those membership perks. Very, very excited to get those down. It's just a matter of when exactly it'll be. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to implement a lot of the ideas that we have.
Yeah, I'm just excited for. We finally have some diversity. I've been doing Tory heavy forever. Just 3 Tories because it's like a Delta heavy. I'll do a Tory heavy right now. And now we have like Starhopper. We've got SN8. We've got a Dragon. We've got Yikes, Concur, and You Bet, which we were talking about earlier. So, oh man, it's super cool. So that's just one of those little perks for members. And you also get the Discord access. You also get the members preview videos, and you also get the cool stuff that DK is working on.
So somebody was saying I don't have a join button. It's possible. I'm going to guess that you're on maybe iOS, plausibly. For a little while now, it has not worked on iOS because then Apple would also take a part of it. So you would actually have to do it on a different device, whether that is just in regular browser or an Android phone also.
Yeah, you can do it in the Safari browser, but if you there's no button in the iOS app, but yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it in a web browser on an iPhone, but not in the app. Thanks, Steve Jobs.
Yeah, and people are sort of confirming it's like I had no button to join on iOS. I have to do it on Windows. So if you're not seeing the join button and you want to become a membership, first off, thank you. But also make sure that you do go onto your computer. And we've got a bunch of new members coming in, more names than I think I'll be able to read out. So thank you guys very, very much for signing up. I'm excited to have you guys in here and excited to be able to deliver some of those new perks that we're working on. This is an interesting question from Super Chat. Is it possible to swap out an engine on this mount? I
Very
think
good question.
no. What a good question. Yeah, I don't believe so. Is there? I mean, there's certainly like under access, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a hard I don't know based on how the booster mounts and how the engines hang down, and what kind of clearance.
Because like there's no. I mean, I guess they could potentially have like a lift come up underneath it. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean they do that on the suborbital pads.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like, does the engine itself physically nest into something that would preclude it from being able to be pulled, unless it was like one of the center ones, or?
Yeah, I don't
know.
really know the answer.
Yeah, it's a very, very good question, and we'll just have to see going forward. It'll be one of those things to look out for.
Again, there's so many new members and people upgrading their membership. It's more than I think that I can even really go and do. I'm just going to pick out some names. If I miss you, I'm sorry. Science Bob, Mike Bundy, Michael Lloyd, Robert Titan, James Juries, thank you very much. Daniel Bonato just a moment ago, Holland Navigator, Navigator, Matthias. Thank you all very, very much for those new memberships. That's great. Very happy to have you. And S&G with a 1.5, I don't know how to say pounds, £1.50 super chat. Thank you very much. £1.50? Would that be accurate? Where's Chris?
Let's see.
So looking through it, seeing if there's still any movement. It looks like there's still just a little bit of movement. It's not quite captured yet.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Wow. That's significant. And Chris B confirms £1.
£1.50. All right, I got there eventually. I was like 1.5 pounds. Oh goodness. Someone just asked, and it said so. Zach in chat asking, "What's?" I lost it here. Hold on. Oh goodness. It's too much chat. They're asking about our sort of footage backup. If we still have it or if we're relying on YouTube. No, we still have all of the raws at this point.
Yep.
Someone's talking about what is in the black cylinders. I don't know if anything's necessarily in them at present, but we can ask or talk about what they're for. Jack, would you like to cover that? I can do my best, but I feel like you'd be able to get it a little bit better.
It's a composite overwrapped pressure vessel. You can think of it as a really, really fancy scuba tank. It is typically a metal or plastic liner, like basically tank, and then it is wrapped in a carbon composite for strength. And they can contain helium for spinning up the turbo pumps on the engines. They can contain, I believe, nitrogen as well, and they can contain, basically, those are the two big ones that I can think of. I'm not sure if or what else they would contain besides helium or nitrogen, but basically those gases can be used to operate a variety of things on the ship. But I think mostly they are for and related to the engines. And tank ullage. When you expend fuel out of the tank, you need something to fill the void behind it. You can't just pull a vacuum in the tank. So yeah, and so that's
so why nitrogen or hydrogen?
Helium, not hydrogen. Oh,
not hydrogen. Not hydrogen. Whoa. Not hydrogen. That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one.
Oh man, I think helium. I'm not sure why helium is used for spin-starting turbo pumps. Maybe because it's inert. That's a really good question.
Because it is inert, best I know. For both.
And also, maybe there's a component of helium's lightness and its ability to, I don't know, spin a pump fast or something. I'm not quite sure. I know it's a light molecule. It's what, number 2?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good question. Why helium? It really does strike me how beautiful the COPV arrangement is on this vehicle compared to sort of just like a single tank here, a single tank there that we've seen on some of the previous Starships. Like, it looks like they used 4X radial symmetry in Kerbal and made a nice little sub-assembly of COPVs with wiring and little mini tanks and everything and the mounts. And then they just took that sub-assembly and made 4 of them on radial symmetry. It just looks great. I'm really, really dazzled by how this booster looks compared to how it looked last when we saw it lifted onto the mount. And I know I always do this, but it makes me think into the future. It's gonna look super cool.
Speaking of in the future, someone's asking about any word on the COPV aero covers, and I don't know if we have any word on them yet exactly, but if you look, you can see just a little something on either side of the COPVs on the booster, and presumably that will be where that would be mounted. I think that's a fair guess.
just above the mounting brackets for the COPVs themselves on either side. Is that
Yes.
what you're talking about?
Yeah, those little little
Yeah.
hard points, little nubbins.
Yeah, it looks like you could bolt something onto those little nubbins, no problem. Yeah, that looks. Well, I would give
I
that
love that
a
I just got you to
plausible.
say nubbins.
No, that's a great word. Like dongle, nubbins,
Yeah.
stubs. There's all. Yeah, we got all. It's all tools in the belt.
Yep, yeah. I mean, hard point is probably the most mechanically correct.
Yeah.
A bunch of new members coming in still, presumably people that just got off their iOS device that then go on to a browser. So thank you guys so much. It's great. Yeah, nubbins. See, Eric Meyer gets it. All right.
I mean, we could call them greebles.
So, a greeble?
Yeah, you know what a greeble is?
Not in the least.
Really? Okay, so a greeble is like in a movie prop term where it's a little detail that you add to something else to make it more realistic. Like if you're gonna make a Han Solo laser gun, it's not just like a flat plastic thing. Like there's a little vent looking thing and maybe a little sight looking thing that pokes out, and it's just little details. It's prop details. So it's a greeble. It's just a really really good word, and I think in this usage it would just be a little accoutrement for the booster. but yeah, greeble. That's a solid word and a good little bit of movie trivia there for you. A greeble is a prominent detailing added to the surface of a larger object that makes it appeal more complex and therefore more visually interesting. Usually gives the audience of an increased impression of scale. Anyways, fun facts with Jack.
Like, well, with filmmaking, it's all jargon. It's so remarkable.
Yeah, when they call clothespins C-47s on set. Give me a C-47.
Yep. Lots of C-47s. I've got a couple bags of them.
It's always fun when you're on a set that's a little bit more casual, like with your friends. You always play the game of trying to get as many C-47s on the back of the director of photography or on the back of the director without them knowing. Or you do the same thing with gaff tape. Like, how many strips of gaff tape can I stick to the director's back before the end of the day? And at a certain point, you walk up and you pat him on the back and stick a big piece, and he's like, wait, you jerk, what are you doing?
Yeah, I like to live a slightly dangerously on film sets, Jack. I like to go the route of how many people in this apartment complex can we upset before they call the police?
Oh, that's always fun. Yeah, taking me back to my film school days.
Yeah, exactly. But guerrilla filming, yes.
Oh man, just steal the shot. Oh god. Anyways, yeah, I mean one of my classes in film school in lighting, there was one of the tests was literally we had to memorize 100 different pieces of gears, like slang name, like oh that's a beefy baby combo. Those are real names of stands.
Yeah. Well, I remember when Rough Riders was talking about the Apple box. I thought he was talking about Apple boxes.
Oh
Yeah.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Which is another sort of device that you would have in filming. It's just a wooden box. I don't know why it's called an Apple box. Presumably, you used to use boxes that actually had apples in them, but now it's like a very specific measurement of a box.
I actually need to buy a couple Apple boxes. They're so incredibly useful. It's just like
I own many. I like to make them actually because I do a little bit of woodworking. But
oh my god, I'm gonna have to. Okay, note to self:
I'll send them to you.
commission DK for some
Yeah,
Apple boxes.
I can do that for you.
Yeah, and if you guys want, they're so useful. It's like gaff tape. Like you can do a lot with Apple boxes,
God, I
gaff
love gaff
tape,
tape.
and some combo stands.
And maybe and there's some C stands. Yeah,
C-stands,
exactly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. C stands. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. I mean, that's the entire profession of grip and lighting.
Jack and I getting excited about some filming equipment here. We've got booster for looking like it's wobbling less and less and less. I'm sure they're getting some strapped down.
See, everyone squatted down, and I was like, oh, they're going for it. Like, they're going to lower it, but no. It moved a bit too much after that. But yeah, it looks like they were doing something that indicated they were getting closer, but we'll see.
Justin Estrada in chat saying, I have definitely clipped some C-47s to unsuspecting gaffers on set. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, someone had to explain that to me the first time the first time I turned around. I was like, why is there a clothespin on my shirt? Yeah.
Man.
So cool to see this booster back on the pad again. I don't even feel like it took them long to make all these modifications to it. It looks absolutely, completely upgraded versus the last time that we saw it.
It looks like a different booster. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It was
just
it was
looks-
about a month ago that it went back, right? Early August after they
Feels-
stacked it on like the 6th or something
Yeah.
like that.
feels like the blink of an eye.
Yeah. Wow. And thank you too to the 13,000 of you who listened to us talk about things we do on set.
Little digression.
Yeah. But hey, that's what you come for the Starship views and conversations, and you stay for the random the random tangents we take. Yes.
This is an interesting question from a $5 super chat from the Sylvan Smith. Are the COPV in line with grid fins to help reduce with the airflow / drag points?
Oh, they might be actually. Yeah.
I think
yeah.
so. That's a good point.
I mean, I'm trying to orient myself. The tower is off toward
Right.
the side, like off to the right. So
It certainly
yeah,
would seem so.
yeah, I think so.
Nick, if you can hear us, tell us. Look up.
Just look up and type. He's typing.
He's typing. Yeah.
Tomorrow Wines, thank you very much for the new membership. That's great. And then Jack Hewson for a super chat. Joaquim Hin, thank you very much. And also Taylor Van Camp, thank you all very, very much.
says
and,
yes,
well,
they're
goodness. And
aligned.
speaking of, it says yes, they are aligned. Okay, interesting. I don't think that I'd realized that before.
Same.
Big old super chat coming in from Bob Paddleford for $49.99. Thank you very, very much, Bob.
This looks very stable now. I'm saying this and it will move now.
It has not
It-
moved in a little while. Yes.
It hasn't moved in a little while. Yeah.
Just a few. Maybe just a little bit of movement. Now that
yeah.
I'm sort of flipping back and forth, sort of A/B testing where it was, where it is now.
Wait, say it again. Oh, you're A/B testing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just sort of flipping back and forth where it is. It's just a little bit of movement. It almost looks like it might just be a trick of the camera. It almost looks like it's sort of canted to one side, or like it's locked down more on the right than it is in the left.
No, it just swung a little bit more to very clearly see the line move from in front of one of the stationary things on the orbital
Gotcha.
launch platform.
Mm-hmm.
I like the little hand gesture that guy just did. Like, now you see, you just move it over like 1 inch, and that's all you need. Like, so fascinating.
In chat just now from Alistair Dewar, any idea when we'll see the full stack again?
Nope.
I don't know if we really know the timeline. I would love to have a date. I really, really would. I don't think that we know. I also don't think that SpaceX really knows at this point. Certainly they have, when they would like for it to be, but we'll see what that timeline actually looks like as it happens. Someone is asking, are all those from Fermi Paradox? Are all those little holes to save weight?
Are all the little holes to save
Little
weight?
hole. Oh, they're talking about maybe this what looks like sort of riveting, the sort of vertical striping that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reference.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure.
Beautiful.
Look, Nick giving
Great
us a
pan, Nick.
view
Yeah.
of the hole up. Yeah.
Tilt. It's a tilt, not a
Oh,
pan.
tilt. Sorry. I
Oh
get
my
this
God,
wrong.
I
I
can't-
should know this. Like, anyway.
Drives car off cliff.
I've got a meme to show you later, Jack.
Please and thanks.
That's their way of saying they're going to make fun of me for not knowing pan versus tilt. Later on.
No, I don't know what you mean.
No,
I
sorry,
wouldn't do that.
yeah, I couldn't resist. Uh,
Let's see what we got here. Kachuri says, will Starship be stacked on top of B4 before any static fires? I don't think so. I think they'll
yeah.
static fire booster separate from having the ship stacked on it. I mean, that's what they do with Falcon 9 most of the time, right? Is they'll static fire it without the second stage attached.
Yeah, or they, as Thomas
Without
had
the
mentioned
payload.
this before,
The payload.
potentially even both, really.
Thanks, Chris. Payload. Yeah. So, we'll just see what happens there.
I mean that is something interesting because one thing that we'll be looking for and one thing that could change, right, is we have of course seen the starships undergo their own static fire testing and everything over on the suborbital launch pads before their flights. So again, this is one of those things where we tend to try to think of, right, because, oh, well, this is what we've seen before, so this is what the process is going to be before. But kind of remember how we were talking about, like, how are they going to catch this thing with the arms? How are they going to do this? How are they going to do this? And then eventually, like, one of us on our stream said, we have to stop thinking about this like how the Falcon 9s land, right? These things can probably hover. These things can probably do things that the Falcon 9s can't. And then lo and behold, that's exactly what it turned out to be. Right. They can come to a near hover and the arms are communicating with them to figure out exactly where they need to be to grab it. So in that regard, like our brains are trying to say, but they need to static fire the Starship first. Do they? Do they need to static fire the ship part of it first? I don't know. They don't static fire the second stage of the Falcon 9 when it's on the launch pad.
But they do at McGregor, don't they?
But they do at McGregor. But what if the
you can
engine that it has? So, like, that's my question. Is like we keep thinking about, that's more my main point. They could totally static fire Starship and pull it over to a suborbital pad, and then stack them and do a combined systems fueling test and everything like that. They could totally do that. My main point is, we've seen before in this testing that we can't rely on what we've seen before to be the case going forward. So maybe there's a difference now that we're talking full stack. That's my main point. Sorry.
Yeah, fair. But good question there.
From Alma Fuerte in chat here saying that there's not a chance that they'll risk Ship 20 by static firing Super Heavy with the Starship on top. I mean, do they want to? There's certainly some logic to that, but also, do you want to risk it by not static firing it? I know, to see what it would do. And but also to Chris's point, like we don't know. It's sort of, we're making a little bit of presumptions based on what we've seen from previous vehicles, and this is not a previous vehicle. $5 super chat from Darren Reikley, possibly Richley. On vacation from Kentucky right now. I'm sitting on beachside on Highway 4 watching Booster 4 and listening to NSF. Love you guys and thanks for all you do. Hey, thank you very, very much. And I hope you're having a good time being down there. That's great.
Yeah, man. Enjoy the views. Man, it's incredible. Yeah.
A lot of people saying that the little holes where the vertical dots, like the weld marks, those are markings where internally there are things welded.
Sure, that would make sense.
That could be what was being asked earlier.
Everyone's just sort of staring at the booster right now, seeing if it's coming down.
To be a fly on the side of the booster right now and get to hear the conversation they're having, like, darn thing won't fit. Move it 2 inches to the side. Like, hit it with a hammer. Like, we've seen them when they've been stacking tank sections. Sometimes they'll just use a giant piece of wood, like not a 2x4, like bigger than a 2x4. It looks like almost like a log.
My favorite thing that happened last time is one of the taglines fell down and they produced this large metal hook that looked like it was very specifically made to grab taglines.
That's hilarious.
They just have up there with them. I don't know.
I remember watching that with you, DK, and like
Yeah.
yeah, that was so funny to watch. But it was the perfect example of like they thought of the contingencies.
Yeah.
You know.
But to Jack's point of like what would to be a fly on the wall while that happens, like, ah, dang it, Bob, the tagline fell. Go get the tagline hook. I don't know what they call it.
It's rotated 180 degrees out. Why do we do it this way? I told you we should do it that way.
When what they're really probably talking about is lunch.
Yeah, right. Somebody go to the cooler and get me
Right?
water.
Like,
You go to
come
the
on,
cooler
let's
and get you a
get
water.
this moving. I got a ham sandwich with my name on it.
I love how in your version of this, DK, everyone is like a 1940s radio presenter.
That's just the easy default voice. I don't know.
Yes, that's true.
I can make him Liverpoolian. I don't know what do you want?
No accents, please.
Oh, okay,
Please,
great,
no
great.
accents.
I like this from Krista Blake. When Chris G to Starbase?
Soon, TM.
TM.
Need to get through Inspiration 4 first.
Yeah. So somebody in chat, get Mama Starship prying board. I like that.
Prying board, I love it. So good. Gavin Brown with a good mention. Elon had mentioned thermal protection for the Raptor engines, of which we're not really seeing any.
Right.
Yeah, not so much.
And we were kind of talking about the boot sort of thing on Falcon 9 and what kind of boot setup might exist for Super Heavy, or whether there'd be like a fairing or like a aero cover for the engine part or what. But yeah, I don't see any kind of thermal protection for the engines, and that goes back to the same question of, will this thing live on orbital pad as we're seeing it right now, or about to see it right now, until it launches, or will it be taken back down again and perhaps worked on the ground, or maybe even rolled back to the build site again? It's an unknown at this point.
I'm also wondering if maybe those are things that they could install at the pad that they didn't
Totally.
need for the rollout, so just do it at the pad.
Could be. Could very well be.
Super chat coming in from Mithricia, 200 Norwegian krona. It would be a little bit more than 20 US dollars. We need a T-shirt with all these silly specialized Starship tools described as acronyms on it. I like that.
That's a good idea.
Like that.
We don't have that T-shirt, but we do have several T-shirts, again, at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, and including the new IKEA-styled How to Assemble a Starship shirt, which is new as of today. No one has one yet. Well, no one, not publicly.
Yeah, if you didn't catch that earlier, that's a new item in our store, and we're real proud of it. It looks awesome.
It's so good. It's so good.
It really looks awesome, and like you said, it's brand new today, first time on the store publicly. So if you want to be one of the first to get it now. And I mean, it's September, it's early, but maybe start thinking about Christmas gifts. It might be a good gift for someone you love that loves Starship.
I'll also say too, it's not just shirts that How to Assemble a Starship graphic works on. We've got posters and some other good things that's on too. So definitely check that out. Yeah, definitely check that out.
The poster's really good. I feel like we should do more posters. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, concur.
See how well they sell. Yeah.
So looking at where it's going, been moved downward just a little bit more.
It has. Look at that. The bottom of the stringers there are now below
Yeah.
some of the permanent railing there. They were not before. That is good. They are lowering it. Yep. Yeah, you can see that more of that concentration on the base as it was being lowered there by the teams.
We've got a question from chat here from Marcus Anderson. I see no question about the exhaust fumes. I'm deeply concerned about how close the firing ramp is to the fuel tanks. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think this is something. I think the closeness of the fuel farm is something that is just very obvious here at Boca Chica. Fuel farms at other pads are close as well, and everything. So there's nothing that's overly alarming about how close the fuel farm is. Now, the only other thing I'd say to that is it does not have a flame deflector, which is certainly something. We have seen berms and stuff that could protect the fuel farm. They could still have other, protection and mitigation elements for it that, would be put into place after its construction is done. But the proximity of it itself is not a concern. The fueling area at 40 is very close to the launch pad. 41 as well at the Cape, where the Falcons and the Atlases go respectively, are all close. So yeah, the proximity is not an issue. No.
Yeah, it's certainly it's easy to sort of be alarmed by it, but it's pretty standard operating.
Yeah, and I think too, like there's a lot of like, oh my gosh, why would you put that so close? But like the type of failure, sorry, excuse me, the type of failures you would have that would either result in a pad fallback or a RUD on the pad. RUD meaning rapid unscheduled disassembly. It's basically just the non-alarming way of saying rocket go boom, for a reason we don't yet understand. Basically, but those types of situations, right? Like you would have so much damage to the pad itself in a situation like that, where the fuel farm might literally be the least of your worries in that regard. However, we've also seen SpaceX rebuild and build pads remarkably quickly. After the Amos 6 blow up on the launch pad during its static fire in September of 2016, they spent the next 4 months or 5 months really getting 39A ready, because it was near completion. And then once 39A was ready, they spent about 10 months rebuilding Pad 40 before they returned it to flight status. So they can rebuild quickly if the will is there. But the way that the failure mechanisms are also very highly dependent. If we go back a few years as well, I believe it was October of 2014, when an Antares rocket suffered an engine failure a few seconds after lifting off of its pad from Virginia, and had a near pad fallback where it had just barely started to get enough downrange momentum that it missed the actual like hardened pad infrastructure itself, which really greatly helped Wallops and Northrop Grumman there. Orbital Sciences at the time. Yeah.
If you haven't seen video of that rocket explosion, that's absolutely one of the most crazy ones out there. And like the ones from the press site where you can just hear the public affairs officers just like, run, go, go, go. And everyone, it's insane. I mean, and the explosion is just like, it's whew, go check it out at some point.
Yeah, the fact that the pad was still there after that was a small miracle for them in terms of spaceflight. Yeah.
I feel like a non-insignificant percentage of this stream has been recommending other YouTube videos to our listeners.
Not recommending others, recommending further reading material.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, here's a playlist for you for later.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Zach, boy, possibly Howdake, possibly Hodash, asking for if a puzzle game of Starship exists. And I don't think we have we certainly don't have a puzzle game. I don't know that they're like, I don't know if they're talking about like a 3D puzzle where you can actually assemble it, sort of in the same way that we have our IKEA shirt.
It'd be cool if we made a puzzle, like just regular puzzles, like 2D that you would do
Yeah,
on
just
a
like of one of our images.
on a
Sure.
tabletop. Yeah, of some of
Mhm,
the
mhm.
images, or like maybe one of Mary's sunrises or something,
That's
or
cool.
even
Yeah.
the IKEA image that like that works well as a poster. It works well as a shirt. I think it would probably work well as a puzzle too. Maybe there might be too much white. There might be too much white on the IKEA one, but maybe it's like a hard mode puzzle.
Like,
Yeah.
here's a 500-piece Starship puzzle. 400 are white. Good
Yeah,
luck.
I mean, hey, there are puzzles like that, Chris. If you didn't,
Oh,
if
there
we,
are. I know. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a thing in puzzling is like, oh, we're not going to rely on an image. We're going to just go straight up white pieces. I don't understand it, but I know it exists.
This is interesting from Matus. A little dodgy on the name. We could see a lot of photos where they repair heat shield tiles on Ship 20, but Ship 20 never flew. So where did the heat shield, like, how did they get damaged? Is the question.
Rolling down the road.
Yep.
It's pretty much how they got damaged. Some of them were damaged in the application process. Some of them came off during the roll down the highway. There's been a lot of good data that they've gathered from this, right? Like we saw the like fast and furious application of the tiles, and then and then we saw them doing the color coding with all the little strips of like this one probably needs like a touch up, this one needs to be looked at, this one needs to be replaced, things like that with their color code. But yeah, it was damage going down the road, or from the or that was exacerbated from damage from the initial round of installation of them. And worth noting that the other major U.S. space vehicle that has those thermal protection tiles had something very similar to it. So the shuttle Columbia, when she was first delivered to the Kennedy Space Center, had a bunch of tiles come off of her when the 747 started down the runway in California.
This guy, Chad, just can't help himself.
I know.
So
It's
Shuttle
like,
Columbia.
it's just you ask a Chris a question. But no. So this wasn't so much shocking to see that some of the tiles were damaged at first from the initial round of installation. They were also putting them on in locations and in orientations and with designs that they hadn't installed before, with this one. So not surprising, but that's where the damage came from, even though it never flew.
I like this one from Ashley Paul Charlesworth in chat. Need to get the IKEA one onto a desk pad.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, that could work. Can assemble the assembly.
So I really haven't seen it move much in the last minute.
I can't say that it's captured, but it has not budged in a little while.
Yeah, it might. It's a little hard to tell, but I haven't seen it move, yeah.
Maybe it's just a little bit of movement? I don't know. Just contending with the sort of little bit of the tiny bit of camera movement that we've got.
Yeah, and the little bit of heat haze already, even though it's closed, it's so hot there.
Getting warm.
Yeah.
Yep. Turns out it's hot in Texas, guys. Who knew?
Right?
Speaking of it being hot in Texas, let's just throw Nick a quick thank you for being out there in the heat all morning, manning this camera so that we can all watch. I don't know how many people have been here in total, but several thousand of us coming through. Nick, thank you very, very much for being out there in the heat. Mary is currently on vacation, so Nick is manning the cameras for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and Steven is out there as well.
Yeah, Steven's out there as well, shooting daily footage.
He posted a shot earlier of his angle, which will be in the daily, and boy, am I excited for that angle! It looks absolutely fabulous. So
yeah,
super glad Steven is out there as well. And thanks to both Nick and Steven for capturing the events today and giving Mary a little bit of a break.
Yeah, be sure to follow Nick on Twitter too. You will post a couple updates there as well.
There's Steven's info as well.
Oh yeah, and there's Steven. Great. Thank you, Michael. And maybe we should just go around the horn so long as we're going talking about everybody. Yeah, it's been a hot minute. We have with us assistant managing editor Chris Gebhardt, and also Shuttle Encyclopedia, as Jack said earlier.
Literal shuttle encyclopedia. Like, Chris, how many flights did Shuttle Discovery fly?
39.
What?
See? There you go.
Is that, did you
That's
just say a
real,
number?
too.
Is that
I'm
real?
not,
Oh
I'm
my
not just
gosh.
picking a number.
I don't like
39, 39, 33, 28, 25, and 10.
Yeah, no, there's a reason why he's an actual shuttle encyclopedia.
Absolutely.
I have a giant smile on my face right now. Thank you.
My goodness, I love the knowledge base that you have. Goodness. We also have Jack Beyer as well.
That's me.
You are at Jack Beyer, right? Is there any?
The Jack Beyer.
The Jack Beyer. I knew there was something with it.
Sure enough.
It'll
Yep,
be
I'm the one that
popping up on
babbles
screen.
about
There it is.
incoherent things. Sorry.
Jack
with the beard.
is primarily responsible for all of the daily videos. He's the head honcho. Is that accurate to say for the daily videos?
I am no honcho, but I help make sure those daily videos get done every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of
And
the many people on the team that works to get that done.
yeah, and does a great job. Working with Jack is a delight. And then I am DK, also Derek. Content manager is the title that I currently have for NASA Spaceflight. You can find me at Declarations. You can also check me out twitch.tv/Declarations as well if anybody wants to hang out with us there. And I'm live 4 times a week, occasionally playing Kerbal even.
Oh, I know sometimes we've gotten done with these streams and you've said, I want to go play Kerbal now. It's
Well,
so
it's
cool.
every time-
It is. 'Cause it is.
Every time I do this, it's just like, well, now I want to launch a rocket.
I know.
It's just it's really hard to watch an actual rocket for several hours and then not want to go make one yourself.
And you know what else too, for today, because Jack, and I mean I'm sure DK, like, there's been an effector, like, you've been somewhat influenced by this as well, but I also love the fact that the booster is going back onto the pad on Star Trek Day. The 55 years ago Star Trek started, and I think that like hope for the future is very wonderful to see. The vehicle that will could still possibly do so much for us in our expansion of exploration in both human and non-human exploration. On September 8th, to have it back on the pad is a wonderful coincidence. So happy Star Trek Day, everyone.
Yeah,
no matter
absolutely.
what
That's great.
series or movie got you involved in the franchise. Live long and prosper, everyone.
I grew up with Star Trek sort of around, and for whatever reason, as much as I love sci-fi, it never really like clicked for me. But as I've gotten older, I mean, I'm only 33, but as I've gotten older, I have found a taste for Star Trek, particularly the Next Generation, where I have watched through the Next Generation multiple times, and it's actually pretty recent that I've done that. But gosh darn it, it's good. I mean, it's just like the most comforting show to just put on and enjoy, and it's not really stressful, although it can be exciting or suspenseful, but at the end of the episode everything's going to turn out fine, unless you're Natasha Yar. Spoilers.
Yeah.
and it's just so good, and part of that is what you're saying, Chris, is it's a hope for the future, for optimism where there is just equality, and it's like Picard has a headache, and Dr. Crusher's like, why do you have a headache? That's abnormal. Nobody has headaches. It's like, well, gosh, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah,
No, right?
we got rid of headaches a long time ago.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, totally. This is and one thing I will say is I initially scoffed at the whole Starbase thing, the name of Boca Chica, and that Elon has been calling it these days. I guess not. That's a larger area besides just Boca Chica, I guess. But anyways, in Star Trek, they say Starbase and they say Starship, and it's kind of normalized those words in my, I'm used to hearing Starbase now. It's like, okay, yeah, this is Starbase Boca Chica. I kind of like how it sounds, so I've come around. And Dougal is
So-
correcting me. It's Tasha, not Natasha Yar. So that's my bad. Anyways, I'll shut up about Star Trek now. I agree with what you're saying, Chris. That's my Star Trek rant.
Well,
real
I was just gonna say, like you said, you came around to it, and like my mom, when she was pregnant with me in the last trimester, that's when Star Trek: The Next Generation started, and she was bedridden, so she would watch 5 episodes of the original series, one every weekday at 4 p.m. on the local CBS station, and then a new Star Trek episode would air on season 1 of Next Gen. And she always said, later on in life, she said that she joked to my dad that if I didn't arrive humming the theme song, something would be wrong. And Star Trek was always the show that I could watch as a kid, like Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, like 90s Trek was like where that was at. But for
That's
me,
so
it's Deep
interesting because
Space
I
Nine.
grew up watching Next Generation with my mom too.
Mhm.
Nice.
Hmm.
See,
I
I
bet you
wish
there
I
are so
had.
many stories of that, of like Star Trek was a family thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I'd been into it as a kid. I mean, there's a lot of shows that I was. I mean, King of the Hill, for example, I didn't like when I was a kid, and now it's like one of my most favorite treasures.
Oh, same. Yeah.
I don't know why it worked out that way for me, but I grew up watching like The Simpsons, South Park, stuff like that. I mean, probably not shows I should have been watching at the age I was watching, but I mean, hey, I turned out all right.
So looking at the Starship again, we've got just a little bit of movement actually, a little bit more than we had been seeing previously.
It looks like they
Looking
might
like
be
lots of
strapping it into place.
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say there. And we'll see that like the orbital launch mount has those boy, I don't know if I know what the most proper term for them is. Those clamps to hold on.
Give them the
And-
clamps.
Yeah.
Futurama joke. Sorry.
Oh, that took me a minute.
Yeah.
The clamps, yes.
you
Thank
think
you,
you think
Jack.
I should use these clamps that I use at every opportunity? You're a genius. Anyways.
From chat,
Another
can we
show
get
very
a?
underrated for its humor.
Oh yeah. From chat, can we get a helmet can from one of the workers?
Oh, that
I don't
would
know
be
if we
awesome,
could. I
right?
don't know if we'll be able to get that one. I don't know.
That would be amazing though, right?
From Keith Tay, asking if the crane driver is still there. A little while ago, we heard that the crane driver was out. I can't imagine that they've now gone back in.
That was about an hour ago, I think.
Yeah, like some time
Yeah.
ago, the crane driver had gotten out of the cab.
Adrian saying the booster went down, so he must be back. Yeah, that
That's
makes
a
sense.
fair point.
Mhm.
He could also be out again if it's not moving anymore right now.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah, like
curious.
if they've actually got it down. Yeah.
Yeah, still definitely some wiggle though.
Ah, okay.
So it's not quite captured yet.
You know what? It's been however long. I don't even know how many hours at this point. We got 10,000 watching, nearly 11,000. Hit the like button if you like what you're watching. We only got 6,000 likes. So I'm gonna be that guy on YouTube that says that. Smash the like button. But seriously, it helps out. It
You
helps
don't
our
have
videos.
to smash it. You can gently massage it.
There, we can click it. You can just click
Yeah.
it or tap it. I don't see it. I don't see it moving here. I wonder if I need to refresh.
I'm not seeing it move right now either.
Come on, guys. You can do better.
But
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
From a super chat little bit ago, Hessen Feghi says the appendage on the right of the booster and the one similar on the QD structure seem to mate. I think they are lining them up. We had talked about that a little bit before, where we don't know exactly if that is it. It does seem to line up from the perspective that we have on the camera right now, but that could just also be a perspective thing. But it does look like that QD structure that we see on the right side of the screen right now, and then also the sort of cylindrical structure that we're seeing on the right side of
Yeah.
booster 4 look to be lining up. So that could actually be, what would be the best term, Chris? The fueling port?
The fueling port, yeah, the fueling quick
Yeah.
disconnect, yeah,
Yeah.
for the booster, yeah, and it would make sense that's where it's there. Again, like we're hedging just because it could be a perspective issue on us, but man, if that's a perspective issue, it's a heck of a perspective
Yeah, like it
coincidence.
really does look like it
Yeah,
lines up.
like
And it could even be, it's just sort of speculating here. It could be that is part of what this mount is all about, is to get that QD arm set up.
Could very well be.
oh yeah, I mean, anytime we're going to be doing like things like this, there are fit checks galore for everything you
Mhm.
possibly can. Yes.
And then I think, I mean, another component of it too could be plumbing and orbital tank farm, and just GSE general checks. I mean, I don't think we saw them hook the booster up to anything last time they lifted it. I think they just sat it there, they put Starship on top of it, and that was that. I think in this case they might get that QD hooked up. They might get it actually hooked up to some plumbing and do some pressure testing, or maybe just an ambient test. Or who knows? Who knows what this is? This is the ultimate goal of this mounting is for, and if it'll stay even mounted. But we'll find out.
Oh, a message coming in from Vatsayana saying, here during Hoppy's first flight, we'll be here for Heavy's first leap. Love, you guys are incredible.
Love
I
that.
love that. Hoppy's first, a hop to a leap. Yes, very good.
Thank you for that $10 super chat there. That's great. And just I'm gonna thank some people. We're not gonna be able to get to all the questions here from super chats here. Andrew Skelly, Hassan Fegi. We actually read that one. Tony Oranges, Chard Loden, Marcos Bueno, Richard Palmer, and Stephen Cook. All thank you very much for all the super chats and their continued support. And everyone who's just watching, maybe some of the new members, for everybody who's signed up. We've got quite a few of them today. That's fantastic. Thank you for the continued support. Hitting that join button. If you don't have a join button, again, you might be on iOS. If you're on iOS and you don't see a join button and you want to become a member, go ahead and do it on either a browser or another device.
Seriously, thanks to all the new members. Very awesome of you all. Helps us keep the lights on, pay for data,
Exactly.
run Starbase Live, all the things.
Bring the streams to you. An easy question from Uptight Rampy here in the chat. Do they plan on doing a static fire on SN20 or Ship 20 anytime soon? I don't know that we know when, but presumably they will be doing a static fire of Ship 20.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those like it's anyone's guess. We've definitely seen them do that. How the process is going to change now that we're heading into full stack tests and things like that, and full stack flights is going to be part of the fun of watching how the next round of test campaigns happen. I know Adrian is probably standing by with the spreadsheet to note differences. You know.
So really interesting from Steve Cooper What Kelly in our back channel here. One of our mods, and actually is now an operator for Starbase Live, saying that if he's doing the math right, we did a 144-degree spin once we got it over the orbital launch mount. Essentially, he's just taking, 29 engines, and he counted which ones we have and going through it all. So almost a complete 180, but not quite.
Here's an interesting. Hang on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
This thing that we're looking at right now, this manifold that the two yellow shirts are in front of, whatever that little box is. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. I'm not sure what that little box is, but it's really interesting looking. And in this picture that Elon tweeted, it's been brought to my attention by some of our members. It's a picture of underneath Starship that Elon tweeted a little while back, back in August. And there's that same box is visible behind the 3 sea level Raptors, a similar kind of box. So I don't know. I just wanted to point that out.
Oh yeah, I
Nick,
see what you're saying now.
I don't know what it is, but Nick, but yeah, that's a just similar thing on either vehicle. Nick is reporting in our back channel that the lift is completed per the pad public address system. So it sounds like the lift is complete. Thanks for the update there, Nick. Cool. It's done. It's on the pad.
It's on the pad. My goodness. Well, thanks to everybody who's been, again, putting in the super chats, watching the new membership. That's absolutely fantastic. Let's go around the horn just one last time here. Again, my name is DK. You can also call me Derek. I am the content manager here at NASASpaceflight. At declarations on basically everything. And with me is Chris G, the assistant managing editor of NASASpaceflight and also Shuttle Encyclopedia.
Pleasure to join you, as always.
And then the Jack Beyer also on comms here with me. At the Jack Beyer.
Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks DK and Chris for joining. We had Thomas a little bit earlier. And yeah, Booster 4 back on the pad. Look at that.
And of course, big thanks to Nick for being out there in the heat. His job is way harder than any of ours. Being in the heat, out there, keeping that camera on there, moving it a little bit whenever we needed to. Thank you again to Nick. And thanks to Adam Smith with a $10 super chat just coming in. Go buy a couple beers on me. Nice job, guys. Hey, Adam, thank you very much. And then, of course, Michael Baylor in the back end here, working all the levers and buttons, making sure that the stream looks absolutely beautiful. Appreciate you very, very much, Michael. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to everybody watching. We're going to go now to Starbase Live. And we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, come hang out in Starbase Live. We'll be over there chatting. At least I will for a little bit. And yeah, keep watching. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yes,
But you should go over to Starbase Live.